One when a mysterious, high-dimensional entity suddenly turned 9 billion ordinary humans into lords. The flashy rich kids scored combat talents and beasts, while an orphan nobody drew. The A-rank talent everyone laughed at, the Impregnable Fortress, when he refused to. Bo, a wealthy bully named Wang Ho, vowed that he would completely flatten his starting territory. What they missed was that his defenses cost half the resources and time. Growing stronger every single time his lord's mansion leveled up, while they raised one. Arrow Tower he raised two until his defensive walls grew so thick that Wang Ho's entire wolf cavalry shattered against them. The orphan they told to submit became the unyielding stone wall that the arrogant bully completely broke himself on. Drop a subscription if you have not already and leave a like to keep the algorithm happy. This story starts now. But none of this happened overnight. Let us start from the day everything broke open. A cold, vast voice tore through his mind, snapping his eyes wide open. The cosmic announcement rolled over him like a wave from somewhere higher than the sky, declaring that a high-dimensional entity had descended to start the era of global lords, and that all 9.1 billion humans on Blue Star were being teleported at once. He barely had time to process the words before reality itself rearranged around him. The familiar classroom of his senior class at Gyugang First High School was suddenly gone, and in its place stretched a boundless expanse of emerald green grass under an open sky. A crude wooden shack stood completely alone right behind him, and 10 men and women in coarse linen stood waiting with dazed eyes, looking directly at his face. Was this transmigration? Before he could even finish that thought, the grand voice returned, warmly welcoming him to the newbie continent and announcing that everyone here would become a lord with their own starting territory and subjects, and that the single, simple goal was to survive and grow stronger. The lord system activated inside him, loading his initial territory, a level 1 lord's mansion and 10 peasants. Next came his only starting resource, a single white recruitment order. Then, the system announced the extraction of his exclusive talent, with grades running randomly from E to S, wishing him good luck as if luck were something it could actually give. A massive golden roulette wheel spun in front of his eyes, light flickering across its face, slowing right down until a golden beam shot out and poured into the space. Between his brows, the system congratulated him. He had drawn a grade A talent called Impregnable Fortress. Inside his territory, the system explained all defensive structures cost half the resources and half the building time. Unlocking advanced defensive fortifications suddenly became incredibly easy, while the damage, range, and durability of every single defense scaled up with his mansion's level. A grade A talent, this was unreal. His heart stirred. The system said grades ran from E to S, putting A near the very top, and the best part was how perfectly those defensive bonuses fit him. He grew up in an orphanage, cautious to the bone, the kind of person who mapped the worst-case exit before stepping inside. He had never believed he could scheme and maneuver across a battlefield like some born general, but digging in, raising walls, laying solid foundations, and ruling the steady grinding path was exactly his style. Ultimate defense is the sharpest defense, he told himself, and he had never been more satisfied with the he accepts the hand he was dealt. Turning to the 10 bewildered peasants, Inbeom introduces himself as their lord. The instant those words leave his lips, they bow as one and greeting him. Confusion drains from their eyes, replaced instantly by rising, absolute loyalty. They look ready to throw up their arms and weep with pure joy. He nods, opening his lord panel to see what he has. The interface is clean and simple, divided into territory, construction, recruitment, and channel options. Inbeom opens recruitment first. A single white recruitment order sits there, waiting. It can summon anywhere from 1 to 10 troops, ranging from Tier 1 to Tier 3. He uses it immediately. A blinding white light flashes and 8 militia members appear, clutching wooden spears and wearing crude leather armor. The system shows their details. Tier 1, level 1 troops, each with 55 health, 40 mana, 10 strength, 11 stamina, 7 agility, 8 spirit, 8 intelligence, and 0 skills. Their description calls them a basic armed force that struggles to beat anything. Not bad, he thinks, keeping his head cool. He stays realistic. They are Tier 1, but at least he got more than one. He orders the 8 militia to split into pairs and patrol the territory borders, and they move out immediately. Next, he sends his 10 peasants out to gather every single piece of wood and stone nearby. They accept The command working like busy little bees and throwing themselves straight into the labor, watching his territory slowly take shape. Inbeom opens the final tab. The communication channel, it splits into world, area, and private chats. The world channel is already exploding with thousands of messages, scrolling faster than any I can track. It is a massive avalanche of 9 billion people dumping panic and disbelief into a single chatroom. One user screams they were yanked mid-bathroom break, another is crying for their mother, while some guy brags that Grade B Beast Affinity talent gave him a wolf, demanding everyone bow down. Another shouts that Grade B is garbage because their own brother got. Grade A Inbeom filters out the massive noise, switching to the area channel. A system notification states he has been placed in a newbie zone with restricted chat. This channel only connects local lords. There are fewer users, but the room is just as incredibly chaotic. Scanning the list, he starts recognizing familiar names from school. The regional grouping must match their old world locations before the teleportation, because almost everyone in this chat is from Gungang City, including many former classmates. Suddenly, a bold red server announcement flashes and takes over the screen. It is a post by a lord named Wang Ho, demanding everyone pay attention. He claims to be a senior from Gangsong First High School, boasting about drawing. The grade A talent berserk charge, he brags his first recruitment gave him 5 Tier 3 Wolf Cavalry, declaring that his raw power completely crushes everyone else in the area. Wang Ho, Inbeom frowns. This is that spoiled rich second-generation kid from school, the tyrant who bullied people using his family wealth. It seems even bad people can have a terrifying stroke of luck. Berserk Charge is a devastating early-game combat ability, and when combined with his Tier 3 Wolf Cavalry, he has an absolute unfair advantage. The local chat explodes the moment he posts. His school followers immediately start kissing up. A school lackey named Zhang Wei claims to be. One classmate begs to be looked after, while others swear they will follow Ho Hyung wherever his grade, a talent, and wolf cavalry take him. Watching these familiar faces grovel, he almost laughs. Even in another world, the same fools play the same parts. Wang Ho clearly loves being the center of it, he posts, again declaring that those who know how the world works are the heroes. Announcing the founding of the Heavenly Wolf Alliance, ordering every lord the area to join and submit to his unified command, insisting that unity is survival's only path in this hellhole. Then he draws the line, those who join he protects, those who refuse become enemies of the entire Heavenly Wolf Alliance, and the moment he develops, the first thing he will do is flatten them. The threat carries an ugly, unquestioning weight. Most people fold at once and pledge themselves in the channel, because in a world this strange, grabbing onto the thickest leg they can see is an instinct. A few stay silent, then he starts reading the list of holdouts, and within seconds he calls them out by name, demanding to know why he is saying nothing, asking if he is mute. The sudden attention surprises him. He barely ever spoke to Wang Ho in school, and the only reason Wang Ho knows him is that his name sat in the top 3 of the grade. Most of the time, people like him reserve their sharpest hatred for those who are better than them, questioning his status. Right on cue, Jiang Wei sneers that he is that nerd who knows nothing, and a girl named Zhou Riri adds that he is just an orphan who kept to himself, probably scared out of his mind. He reads the cold mockery without expression. He has no interest in answering, but Wang Ho has no intention of letting it drop. He demands one final time whether he is joining the Heavenly Wolf Alliance, and orders him to give a clear answer. He thinks for a moment, then types one slow line. He replies that on the Global Lord stage, everyone rises by his own ability. No insults, no argument, just a flat statement of fact. But in Wang Ho's eyes, it reads as the most direct provocation possible, and the entire area channel goes silent. No one expected the quiet top student to be the first to publicly defy him. A few seconds later, his fury scrolls out. He spits back a sarcastic good, each by his own ability, and tells him he has guts. Then comes the promise he should wait, because he will find him, and the first thing he does once he is ready will be to lead his troops to his territory and teach him how to spell the word death. Afterward, he goes quiet, plainly livid, and the others rush in to offer their condolences, betting he has studied himself stupid, calling him dead. Meet mourning a top student about to vanish over a grade A talent. He closes the noisy channel without a flicker of fear. Was he scared? Not even close. Much. Wang Ho was right that his talent, and that absurdly lucky pack of tier 3 troops are powerful in the early game, but he overlooked the one thing that matters most. The endless continent is enormous, and even inside a single newbie area, the distance between territories is way beyond imagining. Finding him on that vast map would be like searching for a needle in a haystack. And the thing he needs most right now is time. He looks at his bustling territory, where the 10 peasants have already piled up a respectable heap of wood and stone. And he opens the construction list, his eyes landing on the most basic defensive. A standard wooden arrow tower normally costs 400 wood and 200 stone and takes 8 hours to raise, but with his unique talent, the numbers fold right. Half before his eyes, 200 wood, 100 stone, 4 hours, for these resources. Where everyone else can only build one, he builds 2, in that very same span of time. While everyone else builds 1, he still builds 2. He thinks of Wang He, hoping that by the time he arrives, his walls are already thick enough. He does not hesitate. He selects the wooden arrow tower from the build panel, and when the system asks whether he wants to spend 200 wood and 100 stone over 4 hours, he confirms the construction with a simple thought. The 2 nearest peasants drop what they are doing and quickly jog to an open patch behind the Lord's mansion, pulling a blueprint from their robes, and they immediately begin marking the ground. A phantom image of the tower rises out of thin air, and they immediately set to hammering and sawing at the glowing projection. While a progress bar ticks down toward the 4-hour mark, he wanders over to the peasants who are hauling resources to watch them work. They are full of energy, but their actual efficiency is pathetic. They have no decent tools, chopping trees with stone axes and carrying heavy stones in their bare arms. Technology is always the primary productive force, he thinks, and he clearly needs a brand new way to lift their gathering speed. Defense towers alone will not carry him either, because even the most skilled cook cannot make a meal without any rice, and no matter how strong those towers are, they cannot be raised out of absolutely nothing. He is still turning that tool problem over when a militiaman on sentry duty comes pounding up, gasping for breath, reporting that something has been spotted to the east. He tells him to slow down and lay it out. The scout says they found a group of green-skinned monsters in a small grove, about a kilometer to the east, gathered around what looks like a chest. Green-skinned monsters and a chest. This is clearly the starter village's bonus round, a real lucky break. He asks how many there are. The scout reports 5 or 6, and they are very short, carrying crude wooden clubs, acting sneaky. The 2 scouts were too wary to get close. 5 or 6 does not sound like much. He glances at his 8 militia, then at the tower rising noisily in the distance, and he orders all the militia to quickly assemble and follow him, leaving the territory's safety to the peasants. He leads the 8 men east, moving very carefully. After a stretch of thin grassland, the grove comes into view, and he ducks behind a wide tree, easing half his head past it. In a clearing, 6 monsters no taller than his chest crowd around a battered wooden chest, jabbering and squabbling loudly as if they are arguing over how to split the loot. Emerald skin, pointed ears, the system reads. The mount is level 1 goblins with 35 health points, weak across the board. The description naming them low creatures with poor brains who love shiny things and bully the weak while fearing the strong. These are starter mobs, exactly as he guessed. His militia are also tier 1, but their attributes run higher. There are 8 of them against 6, and he is standing behind them to command 8 against 6. The advantage is entirely his. The only real question is how to micromanage this battle to keep his losses near 0. He studies the terrain and whispers the plan, 4 of them flanking left, 4 staying with him on the right, both wings to charge at once on his signal. The militia move in position, clumsy but obedient, and once both teams are set, he swings his hand down hard, ordering the charge. They roar to steady nerves and slam into the goblins from both sides. While they are still mid-argument, they never imagined humans walking in, dissolving into shrieking chaos. They raise clubs, but their formation is already shattered. No threat at all. His militia have combat skills that round to absolute 0, but their loyalty is maxed, their morale high, and they fear nothing, and 8 against 6 does the rest. A spear punches through goblin's chest, dark green blood sprays, pushing the fight to a fever pitch. He stays out of the melee. His job is command, not the killing, so he stays way back to keep his line organized, calling 1 militiaman to stab a goblin's flank, ordering another 2 paces right, under his direction. Their attacks tighten and their efficiency jumps. in under 3 minutes, all the goblins lie in pools of blood. On his side, only one militia man took a club to the arm, a minor wound, nothing serious. The system congratulates him on his troops' first victory and a small trickle of experience, then tells him one militiaman fought bravely enough to reach level 2. Talk about a clean victory. He immediately checks the upgraded soldier and finds his strength and agility each up by a whole point, a pleasant and very welcome surprise. He walks quickly to the battered chest, but instead of tearing it open, he first has the militia sweep the surroundings to confirm there is nothing else waiting. Only then does he open it. There is no golden glow inside, just an unglamorous pile of resources and a sheet of yellowed parchment. The system congratulates him on 1,000 wood, 500 stone, 50 iron ore, and a gray blueprint for a logging axe, making him want to shout with joy. 1,000 wood and 500 stone is more than his 10 peasants could gather in a full day, and now it is all his in an instant. The blueprint matters even more. The logging axe needs only 10 wood and 5 iron ore to craft, and once equipped, it lifts a peasant's wood gathering by a third. It's like getting a pillow the moment he grows sleepy. Seriously, his luck couldn't be any better, and here is a charcoal fire dropped right into the snow. Better still, the 50 iron ore he just looted is exactly enough for 10 axes, one for each peasant. He orders everyone back to the territory at once, and they return loaded with spoils. Inside, he opens the bill panel, finds the tool crafting option, and crafts 10 logging axes. The system consumes 100 wood and the 50 iron ore before it finally reports production complete. And 10 worn-looking axes appear on the open ground in front of the Lord's mansion. Almost instantly, he calls his 10 peasants over to distribute them, and they put down their loads and snatch up the new axes, faces wild with joy, thanking and praising their lord. He has no idea why they praise him while working themselves like beasts of burden, but if it actually makes them work harder, he won't complain. With these handy new tools now equipped, the wood count on his resource panel climbs noticeably faster. Watching everything flourish, he nods in satisfaction. He announces they have the resources now to build more arrow towers, one on the west and one on the south side. 3 brand new arrow towers rising at once has him in a fine mood. With nothing pressing to do, he opens the area channel to see what everyone is up to. The chat is still noisy, but a heavy layer of dread has settled over everyone. Now, one lord has a wild boar that his 10 peasants cannot even scratch, and they have no idea what to do. Elsewhere, a lone Tier 1 goblin is carried off by a wolf while scouting. Many are simply terrified of the dark. Not everyone got lucky like Wang Ho. Most players only summoned Tier 1 units, sometimes just 1 or 2, and the dangers of this continent are closing in. They are showing their teeth now. Meanwhile, Wang Ho stays the center of attention. Suddenly, a blood-red system announcement bursts in every mind at once like a thunderclap. The first trial of the 7-day newbie period, the Crimson Moon, begins tonight after midnight. During the event, all wild creatures go berserk. Their aggression and abilities are sharply raised, and monster tides will assault the core of each lord's mansion from random directions. The warning tells them to prepare, promising that those who survive earn generous rewards, while those who fail to defend will be utterly obliterated. The word obliterated hits with a bone-chilling cold, silencing the whole world for heartbeat. Before every chat channel explodes, the world channel becomes an avalanche of terror from players who do not own a single wooden fence, having no idea how to survive as the panic spreads. Like a plague, the regional channel is even worse, filled with despair. Many are certain they are dead with no soldiers at all, begging Wang Ho to save them in exchange for everything they own. Wang Ho goes quiet for a moment, clearly rattled by the news, then posts again with a forced calm wrapped around obvious smugness. He tells everyone to stop panicking, claiming that if the sky falls, he will hold it up. It is just a minor swarm that his 5 Tier 3 wolf cavalry can handle, reassuring members of his Heavenly Wolf Alliance that they have nothing to fear. Then he turns the knife toward the protagonist, singling him out and wishing him luck, hoping his bones are as tough as his mouth, hoping the monsters do not mow him down to nothing. He is using him as an example again, a prop for his own strength, and his lackeys immediately pile on, betting the protagonist is wetting himself, gloating that this is what offending Wang Ho earns, promising to come admire his tombstone tomorrow. The young lord reads it all with a calm gaze. Fear is natural, but more than that, there is relief because the advantages of his Ranked talent are finally showing, and 3 arrow towers are nearly done. He checks the resource panel and finds the axes and towers have nearly drained him. Only a few hundred wood and stone are left. He shouts for the peasants to speed up their gathering since his territory needs more, then opens the build list where a new structure waits. The wooden wall normally costs 20 wood per meter and 10 minutes, but under his talent it halves to 10 wood and 5 minutes. Arrow towers are point defense, while walls are area defense. And only by marrying the two does he get a true line. Racing the Grim Reaper is never a pleasant feeling. He stares at the resource numbers crawling up and the wall's progress bar inching along, doing the math in his head. Arrow towers in a thin wall do not feel secure enough. At night, vision is the real problem, and if monsters creep in out of the dark, the towers may as well be blind. He opens the build list again and combs carefully through everything a level 1 lords. He scrolls past the mansion permits until an overlooked building surfaces. It is an illumination lighthouse, casting wide light to destroy the darkness. Construction costs 300 wood, 150 stone, a white crystal, and 8 hours. He has no idea what a white crystal is, finding nothing in his resources. Only wood and stone remain, his iron already spent on the axes. His talent for unlocking advanced defense structures must be active right now. Normal players cannot even see this blueprint, yet he still lacks the key material. Time is ticking way too fast to send peasants out searching for it. His only option is the regional chat, hoping someone got lucky early on. He opens the channel again. The desperate crying has faded into a quiet, hopeless hum. The occasional messages that pop up are completely soaked in pure despair. One guy just lost his peasants to a wild wolf pack. Others are groveling to rejoin the Heavenly Wolf Alliance, while Wang Ho stays silent. The boss is likely enjoying the begging, but he has no time for games. He offers an insane price for 1 white crystal, 400 wood, and 200 stone. Direct message to trade. The offer hits the stagnant chat like a bomb. Instantly, the chat explodes. Players cannot believe the ridiculous numbers he is offering. Everyone demands to know who he is, and if he cut down the entire forest. One calls him a massive player, while another compares him to their local tyrant. They openly tell Wang Ho that this Inbeom lord is far richer than him. That sort of talk definitely stings Wang Ho's pride, yet he keeps his mouth shut. He clearly saw it, but has absolutely no way to counter such a massive offer. He just mocked him as the first to die, yet here he is flexing wealth. Everyone is green with envy. Suddenly, a private message pops up from a girl named Sumumyu. She hesitantly asks if he is really trading 400 wood and 200 stone. He remembers her, a quiet girl from the classroom next door back in school. He confirms the deal and asks if she has it. She does, thanks to her C-rank talent. Her lucky blessing gives her 1 daily buff with a small chance at rare items. Using it on day 1 granted her a mysterious white crystal she never understood. She is incredibly lucky. Even a C-rank talent can spit out pure miracles like this. He tells her to trade, but she admits she is terrified to step outside. With monsters outside, he explains that trading is a safe, built-in system function. There is no need to meet in person, she just needs to list the crystal. She must list it for 400 wood and 200 stone on the platform. He will accept the deal. Amazed by the simple process, she promises to do it immediately. Seconds later, the alert pops up as Lord Sumumyu posts the trade. She lists the white crystal, and he clicks accept without a single second thought. His resources vanish instantly, replaced by a glowing, fist-sized white crystal. As it lands in his inventory, she sends an incredibly excited message. She can barely believe the massive pile of resources actually showed up. She thanks him as the biome big shot, thrilled she can now build an arrow tower. With this, she might actually survive. He simply replies that they both got what they needed. He closes the chat and immediately starts building the new illumination lighthouse. When the system requests the necessary building materials, his talent instantly halves them all. The resources and build time are slashed, and he hits confirm. Construction begins. 2 peasants drop their logging axes, running to the open ground. Right in front of the Lord's mansion, they raise up the blueprint. A phantom lighthouse rises from the earth. They quickly fall to clanging work. 4 hours is plenty of time. With the lighting solved, his chest loosens a little. Time passes minute by minute. In the area chat, cries for help thin out. They die in dead silence because everyone knows distant water cannot put out nearby fires. In this cruel elimination game, you quickly realize you can only count on yourself. Suddenly, 2 notifications announce the west and south arrow towers are finished. Now 3 defensive towers stand in a solid triangle around the entire yard. They guard the Lord's mansion and the half-finished lighthouse at the center. He sits down. Sitting on the ground, he eats wild fruit the militia gathered, genuinely starving. He has nothing but a handful of unknown wild fruits. He had a peasant test them. They ate them earlier with no ill effects. Food is fuel, and he cannot starve yet. He cannot fight on an empty stomach, nor expect his militia to face the tide hungry. Finally, a notification lands. The crucial illumination lighthouse is finished. A 10-meter tower of wood and stone stands dead center. He activates it. The white crystal at its peak flares instantly. A soft, clear beam shoots upward. It shoots into the sky and unfurls, washing nearly 200 meters of ground. The area becomes as bright as day. Standing inside, he feels a faint, cozy warmth. The darkness is gone. His territory has finally begun to take real shape. 3 wooden arrow towers stand in their defensive triangle, guarding the Lord's mansion. A ring of freshly raised wooden walls stands ready, though crude and fragile. Still, it gives him a basic barrier. 8 brave militiamen line up. They stand behind the walls with spears, staring out into the dark. Meanwhile, 10 terrified peasants hide inside the Lord's mansion, trembling as they peer outside. They peer through door cracks. He takes the roof of the mansion, the absolute best spot. From here, he can see every single inch the bright lighthouse touches, and more. The bottomless dark crouches just past its edge. The scary countdown ticks down. Cold numbers appear in everyone's sight when the very last second finally falls. The crimson moon descends, a blood-red circle hanging high and bathing everything in red. Eerie light coats the earth. Deep inside the dark, terrifying roars of wild beasts rise. Shrieks of monsters echo, thick with bloodlust, as a warning screen suddenly flashes. A small monster tide has been detected quickly approaching from the east. It is here he turns east. At the edge of the light, green heads emerge. They push out of the dark. Their builds are close to the weak goblins from earlier. But their eyes are blood-red, with saliva dripping and sharp stone clubs ready. The system names them Frenzied Goblins, Tier 1, with their base stats heavily sharpened. Their skill is Frenzy, which under the crimson moon spikes their raw speed. It makes them attack relentlessly and ignore pain. The game description calls them pure cannon fodder that has wholly lost its mind. There are 35 times more of them. For an unlucky lord, this insane horde would be a total catastrophe, he thinks. But for him, it is barely a problem. The frenzied goblins spot his lit territory. They let out ear-splitting shrieks and pour forward on short, stubby legs. They charge straight into the firing range. The east tower opens fire first. Its phantom archer pulls the bowstring to the limit, sending a single arrow flashing forward. Slicing through the air and driving clean into the lead goblin's eye socket, a sharp damage number floating up. The monster drops head first before it can even scream, twitches twice, and goes still. Talk about an absolute instant kill. The base damage of a wooden arrow tower is not high, but the third effect of Impregnable Fortress is live. The tower's damage, range, and durability all carry an extra 10% increase as the Lord's mansion levels. The mansion is only level 1, yet the boost is already substantial. Then all 3 towers fire together, their arrows a reaper's scythe harvesting goblins row. A row, survivors trample their own dead in a frenzy, charging on regardless. The first wave reaches the walls, pounding them with clubs. Dull thuds rolling across the field. The system reports his wooden wall taking damage, scrapes, tiny scratches, but the Lord's defense bar is still completely healthy. Finds it healthy, he calmly orders the militia to prepare, telling them to fire at will and prioritize any goblin trying to climb the wall. They have been itching for this, thrusting their spears through the gaps the instant the order lands. One goblin mid-swing is skewered, dark green blood splashing the wall. The fight turns into a simple, efficient slaughter. The towers keep sniping from rain. While the militia clean up, the line holds. Not a single goblin gets through. With not one goblin crossing, he even has the leisure to open the chat. It has exploded again, but this time with wails and pleas about monsters from the east. Peasants slaughtered, militia killed, fences smashed, and the beasts already running wild inside. Everyone is begging for a savior, screaming for Wang Ho, amid the misery. His arrogant face finally pops up, calling everyone useless trash for failing to stop 30 goblins. He brags that his 5 wolf cavalry killed half in a single charge and handled the rest, telling them this is what strength looks like, and only by following him will they survive. In his territory, those 5 wolf cavalry do look domineering in a field of goblin corpses, but 3 of their health bars are not full, tier 3 or not high. Mobility and attack power do not change, that they are melee units charging head-on into frenzied goblins. It always bleeds. Then he remembers the Lord asking if that turtle shell is still holding, if the monsters have not smashed it yet, telling him to warn him early if he dies to light some incense. His lackeys jump in, claiming he is hiding under a table, asking what he plans to block them with his own head. He ignores the trash. His fight is already over. A final arrow drops the last goblin onto the pile of corpses. The battlefield falls silent, with nothing but wind blowing across the grass. He checks the clock. From the first goblin to the last, the entire defense took under 4 minutes. His territory is completely unscathed, his 8 militiamen barely sweating, having only poked a few stragglers that wandered too close. The system congratulates him on resisting the first wave, hands his troops experience, and announces level ups. 5 of the militia level up, getting a nice stat boost. Right then, the grand voice rolls across the whole endless continent again, announcing the first wave has ended, with settlement underway based on each lord's performance. The standard is monster tide clearance speed, and a golden leaderboard blooms before every set of eyes. Imbeom's name sits at the very top, first place with a clearance time under 4 minutes. Second is Wang Ho, nearly a full minute slower. Below him, a lord named Li Baiwu holds third. A lord named Han Rai takes fourth, and far down at 35th sits Sumu Mu, who barely scraped through. The area channel go dead silent for a full 10 seconds. Everyone stares at the name on top. By AM first place. How was he faster than Wang Ho, who started with 5 tier 3 wolf cavalry? Then it boils over. People are convinced their eyes are lying, certain he cheated, insisting the system made a mistake because there is no way he beat Ho Yang. No one is more shocked than Wang Ho himself, staring at the name pressing down on his eyes go red, and he accuses him of cheating, demanding to know what trick he used. He cannot accept it. With a grade, a talent, and 5 tier 3 units, a god tier start, he was passed by a bookworm he saw as an ant, and it clearly feels worse to him than dying. He ignores his clamor because a far better moment has arrived. The system distributes the ranking rewards and congratulates him on first place: a blue resource chest, a random building blueprint chest, and a green recruitment edict. 3 golden lights flashing as the items settle into storage. He opens the blue chest first. 3,000 wood, 1,500 stone, 200 iron, 200 gold, enough to push his defenses up a whole tier, and a new resource on top, gold coins plainly high grade. He is rich. Next, the blueprint chest gives him a farmhouse, which on completion grants 5 peasants for 500 wood and 200 stone over 8 hours. Another timely gift. Then he turns to the last and most mysterious reward: a palm-sized green token, marked with 2 words of ancient script. Recruitment. The system names it a green recruitment edict, rare quality, which on use randomly recruits a green quality hero to serve him. The description reminding him that 1,000 soldiers are easy to find, and a single general is hard, that heroes are the foundation of a lord's dominance. A hero, his breath quickens. This is a wholly different thing from a recruitment order which calls up mindless soldiers, whereas this summons a unique hero with wisdom and the potential to grow, a being whose value can outstrip an entire army. He never imagined the first night's trial would pay out something this precious. While he studies the rewards, the channel's noise about him hits a fever pitch. Wang Ho's roars tangle with everyone's deep doubt and a few people's genuine shock. Sumu Mu sends a private message calling him incredible, explaining how her single arrow tower and her 2 peasants as fodder barely killed her monsters before they reached the mansion. Unable to comprehend how he took first completely untouched, he smiles, keeping quiet. That silence speaks volumes. He glances at the corpses and broken clubs, crosses ground, and when the system offers 10 minutes of cleanup to recycle some materials, he confirms, better than nothing. That done, he turns back to the green recruitment edict, wondering if his ranked talent can bend his luck toward a worthy hero. The crimson moonlight still covers the earth, but his territory has gone quiet again. Under his command, the peasants clear the field with care, dragging the goblin corpses off to be buried, gathering the tattered clubs and stone-bound weapons for firewood. the system recovering a handful of wood and stone, better than nothing. His gaze settles on the soft. The token glows green. A hero is countless times more precious than ordinary soldiers. They have minds that can think, grow, and shape the entire future of a territory. He stops hesitating and activates it, hoping to get someone reliable. The token dissolves into a brilliant stream of pure green light, rising and coiling in the courtyard, condensing in front of the Lord's mansion. Into a complex ancient runic circle. As the light fades, a silhouette forms. At the center, slowly sharpening into focus, she is a young woman, maybe 20 years old, wearing a plain gray-white hemp robe with animal skins and feathers. Her jet-black hair is tied loosely with a bone hairpin. A wooden staff is in her hand, crowned with a cyan stone. Her figure is well-balanced. Her skin is a healthy wheat color, her features not stunning but pleasant. Her eyes are clear and calm, showing a hint of weariness toward this strange place she has woken into. She spots him on the steps, freezes for a second, then steps forward, places a hand over her chest, and bows, announcing that Snowsong has come in answer to his summons. He welcomes her by name, quite satisfied. She completely suits his taste, no muscle-bound brute, carrying herself with a calm he likes, nothing loud about her. He opens her panel immediately. The system reads her as the hero. Snowsong, green quality, level 1. Her strength and constitution are below a militia's, but her spirit and intellect are far ahead, textbook magic. Type hero with 45 health and 70 mana. Her talent is Wolf's Whisper, a green talent granting every wolf-type unit under his command a 10% boost to all attributes. Her first skill is Summon Wild Wolf, costing 20 mana to call a tier 1 wild wolf that fights until it dies on a 1-day cooldown. Her second is Ice Thorn, costing 5 mana to condense a small spike that deals damage scaled to her spirit and applies a minor slow. The description calls her an apprentice shaman from the northern wastes who can speak in a basic way with the souls of beasts. Good attributes. This talent makes his eyes light up even further. Wang Ho's talent is Berserk Charge, and his troops are Wolf Cavalry, and now a hero who buffs wolves has landed on his side. The legendary combo, perhaps. Talk about a perfect setup. He doesn't own a single wolf yet, but the potential is enormous. He orders her to summon a wild wolf to test it, and she raises her staff, chanting a few short obscure syllables as the cyan stone glows faintly. A small summoning circle opens on the ground, and a gray wild wolf, barely bigger than an ordinary dog, crawls out with a low howl, shakes its fur, and rubs affectionately against her calf. He checks its stats: tier 1, level 1, squishier even than a militia but highly agile. Its skill is simply Bite, with the description calling it an excellent scout and cannon fodder. It is not built for direct combat, but a pro at scouting and harassment. And Snowsong's summon refreshes daily, meaning as long as she lives, he gets a free piece of fodder every day. If the fighting stays light, the wolves will survive and build into a small pack. Combined with her talent, it is absolutely awesome. He tells her she did great, and honestly, who wouldn't be thrilled? With a hero in the ranks, his spirits run high, and he checks the resource panel. His wealth is suddenly substantial after those first-place rewards. No staying idle. He opens the construction list, finds the farmhouse blueprint, and builds it. The clang of hammers echoes through the territory once more as the night passes. No more trouble comes. The crimson moon fades and dawn finally pierces. The darkness welcoming a new day. For most lords, that first night on this endless continent was a total nightmare of blood and tears. On the chat channel, after hours of dead silence, messages finally start trickling back. Someone weeps that they actually managed to survive. Another has 8 out of 10 peasants dead, with half their territory completely wrecked, leaving them clueless on how to keep playing. Someone asks how many of them are even left. Soon, people notice the channel's population has dropped by nearly a fifth since yesterday. That means 1 in 5 lords was wiped out in a single night, and that brutal reality sends a deep chill through every survivor. Wang Ho's messages pop up with his usual arrogant tone, calling the night a mere appetizer, declaring that anyone who could not pass such a simple test deserves to die. He orders his Heavenly Wolf Alliance to check in and report their losses. Dozens of members reply, sharing their relief and gratitude. Jiang Weiri even whimpers about how terrifying the goblins were. Wang Ho tells them there is nothing to fear if they just follow him. Then he targets our protagonist again, mockingly asking if he is still alive, or if the goblins already picked his bones clean, still bitter about being beaten in The rankings, the guy starts his trolling first thing in the morning. Our hero just yawns and does not even look. He is up on the mansion roof planning the new day, a full night of building finished 5 farmhouses, and 25 new peasants now stand respectfully before him awaiting orders. With 35 peasants in total, that is another huge jump in gathering and construction speed. He splits them, 15 onto stone and 20 onto logging. Today, the main goal is to ring the entire territory with wooden walls, and they take the order and head off full of energy, but defense alone is not enough. He must push outward, map the terrain, and find new resource nodes, so he calls Snowsong over to form an exploration squad consisting of her and 3 militia. He grabs a fairly intact goblin skin from storage, left over from the cleanup, along with a piece of charred charcoal. He draws a circle representing the mansion, then drafts a much larger circle around it, ordering them to explore north, south, east, and west up to 5 kilometers. For now, he makes it clear that their mission is not to fight, but to scout. Turning serious, he orders them to record everything, including terrain, water, and monster dens, drawing it all on the skin when they return. He strongly stresses safety. First, a single tier 1 monster they can try to handle, but more than 2, or anything that looks dangerous, they must retreat immediately without lingering in a fight. They understand the assignment. Snowsong bows once more and leads the wolf and militia carefully out, quickly vanishing into the distant woods. Still, walls alone are not enough. Defense needs multiple layers. His gaze soon locks onto a new blueprint, the hunting trap, costing 2 iron ore each. It deals minor damage to whatever steps on it, while severely crippling their movement speed. Paired with arrow towers and walls, it is a perfect match, and the 200 iron ore from last night's reward will come in handy. He orders 100 built first to be laid in a ring outside the walls. As for Wang Ho, our hero silently hopes the guy enjoys the deadly little surprise waiting for him. The territory hums with work, and thanks to his unique talent, 100 fresh hunting traps come together. Quickly using minimal resources, the peasants set them in layers through the grass outside the walls, sparse on the outer ring and denser toward the wall, aimed precisely at incoming threats. They cover the tower's blind spots. Any enemy charging in will get a brutal surprise. Watching this fresh defensive line, his sense of security shoots up a notch. Suddenly, Snowsong calls out from behind. Her exploration team is fully prepared. She leads a spirited wild wolf, flanked by 3 sturdier-looking militiamen. They recently reached level 2. He praises her, handing over the goblin map. He reminds her that she's their eyes, not their fists, and safety comes first. She takes the map without a word, slipping into the eastern woods with her team. He turns back to building. With 35 peasants working, things move fast. The territory is growing much faster than yesterday, wood and stone piling up. With resources rising, he opens the regional chat channel to take a quick break. The other survivors seem to have finally recovered from their initial terror. They are all arguing over development strategies, and a guy named Wang Ho is bragging. He claims his wolf cavalry already scouted a 5-kilometer radius and found iron. He sneers at the people who are still busy chopping wood. His followers are showering him with praise while everyone else struggles for scraps. But past the brown nosers, some pretty interesting new faces start popping up. A lord named Ban So Yun is selling fresh roasted rabbit for 5 units. She wants 50 wood or 25 stone, thanks to her special gourmet talent. It gives the food a nice recovery effect, instantly drawing a huge crowd. Most people are still eating wild fruit, so a cooked meal is pure luxury. A guy named Hey complains that her prices are way too high. He complains it costs half a day of wood, but she snaps back instantly. She asks if he can work on an empty stomach, calling it a discount. He rubs his chin, thinking this Ban So Yun has a great head for business. Right after that, an even stranger person posts in the chat channel. A lord named Yang Yang Sin wants a live, frenzied goblin. He offers 50 stone, wanting to study the effects of the crimson moon. He wants to analyze its cells, which makes the whole chat go completely dead. Someone asks if he's crazy, since surviving those monsters is hard enough. Hey respects the guts, but warns that those things go completely wild. Undeterred, Yang Yang Sin changes his offer, asking to buy a corpse instead. He wants a fresh, undamaged goblin body so he can run an autopsy. The chat goes dead quiet. He watches the screen, feeling pretty amused. Honestly, in a cruel place like this, everyone adapts in their own crazy way. Just then, Snowsong's exploration team returns from their trek. She looks as calm as ever, but her men are visibly excited. She spreads the goblin skin map right onto the wooden table. The original drawing is now covered in fresh charcoal notations. They explored 10 kilometers east, finding a small spring 3 kilometers out. The water is incredibly clear, and the wolf drank it with zero issues. It actually made him look more energetic. Further northeast, they found scorched woods. Several pulsing, red gelatinous creatures are gathered there. They are crowded around a strange, glowing black stone. Her serious expression shifts slightly as she explains they are likely neutral monsters. They left them alone. He nods, telling her she did an excellent job. Alerting them, she nods, pointing to a circled mark, the most crucial discovery, she says, is right here, exactly 10 kilometers away, in a straight line. They found traces of another base. He perks up. They didn't get close, she explains, only keeping watch from a distant hillside. That territory's core is also a wooden manor with busy peasants but no troops. The most striking detail is a giant white cloth flag hanging from the main manor with a silly smiley face. On it, a smiley face flag. A grinning cartoon face pops into his head, making him think this neighbor must have a pretty whimsical streak. He presses her to confirm the exact distance, and she answers with absolute certainty that it is 10 kilometers. This detail plunges him into deep thought. He had assumed that inside a single newbie zone, lords were scattered across massive distances, making finding someone like looking for a needle in a haystack. Turns out he was wrong. Just 10 kilometers in a straight line for a rival like Wang Ho and his Tier 3 Wolf Cavalry means a full-speed raid could hit them in under 30 minutes. This newbie zone, he whispers to himself, is far smaller than he imagined. Or maybe it is not that the zone is small, but that some high-dimensional system deliberately packed every lord into a relatively dense band, packed tight with highly valuable resource points and dangerous neutral enemy camps. He gets it all at once. This is no peaceful protection period for safe, steady growth. It is a highly aggressive coliseum. Drop a pack of hungry beasts into a cage that is not quite big enough, toss in a tiny bit of food, and the bloodbath begins. It is cooperate, conquer, or die. Wang Ho, he realizes, is almost certainly scouring his surroundings right now too, and the moment their boundaries finally overlap and that guy spots his hidden base, those deadly wolves are coming. There is barely any time left. Shaking off the dread, he tells Snowsong good job, sending her off to rest since her mission for the day is finally complete. She nods and leaves. Early on the third morning, a flurry of system prompts wakes him up. He rubs his eyes and rolls out of the basic wooden bed in the Lord's mansion. His territory has run smoothly for 48 hours straight. The upgrades for a level 2 mansion unlocked, and Snowsong's summoned wolf cooldown is finally over. Time to upgrade. Real energy floods him as he opens the construction panel. A glowing, upgradable arrow sits right behind the mansion's icon. Level 2 requires 2,000 wood, 1,000 stone, and 100 gold over 12 hours. He checks his reserves, which after last night's rewards and a full day of peasant labor easily cover the costs, so he confirms. A soft light wraps the wooden mansion, and a huge countdown timer appears in his vision, ticking down from 12 hours. While upgrading, any building tied to the mansion's level cannot be built or improved, putting defensive projects on hold. While the territory sits idle, but he cannot just wait around. Rubbing his empty stomach, he bites into a sour wild fruit that makes his teeth ache, then checks the area. Chat, that gourmet merchant is still selling roasted rabbit at pretty high and ever-increasing prices. The crowd complains, calling her greedy, though some still buy anyway. He scoffed, trading half a day of development time for a single meal. Keep dreaming. Better to rely on himself, because self-sufficiency is the only way to survive here. Hiding in the base forever is definitely not an option. Walking down the mansion steps, he calls out to Snowsong. She walks out of the shadows with her wolf, looking rested and ready. The Lord has her summon a second, identical wolf crawling from the magic circle. They sniff each other. He nods, calling over his 8 militia. He announces they will be hunting today, leaving 3 men behind to lead the gatherers. The remaining soldiers join him. He decides to lead the team himself. Above all, he wants to explore this strange world with his own eyes. Forming a small hunting party with Snowsong, the militia, and the wolves, they head out. They head due west, venturing into the dangerous territory they skipped yesterday. The forest grows dense, sunlight filtering through the thick canopy. Dappled shadows dance across the ground as the wolves move with nimble steps. Noses working the air, they scout perfectly until Snowsong whispers a warning. Something lies ahead. The lead wolf freezes, baring its sharp fangs with a low, menacing growl. The lord halts the squad immediately, signaling the militia into a defensive stance. Spears raised, they brace themselves as one soldier quietly parts the thick brush. Hiding there is a massive, tusked wild boar, rooting aggressively in the damp earth for food. Instantly, his game system displays the beast's stats: a tusked wild boar, level 3. Health is 130, strength 24, featuring savage charge. System warns that its massive, razor-sharp tusks can easily pierce their crude leather armor. This dangerous Tier 2 beast is far worse than those frenzied goblins from last night. Those goblins relied on numbers, but this beast is massive. With their stats hovering around 10, a head-on battle is pure suicide. The young lord turns to Snowsong, asking his frost mage if she feels truly confident. She analyzes it coolly, noting its high defense but lack of speed. Deciding to exploit that exact weakness, the young lord readily agrees to follow her battle plan. She and her wolves will harass the beast, using Ice Thorn to slow it down. Militia will avoid head-on clashes, targeting only its belly and hind legs. With tense nods, the men quickly prepare their weapons, and this deadly hunt officially begins. At his command, both wolves lunge from left and right like arrows shot from a bow. Blindsided by the ambush, the startled boar bellows in rage and lowers its head. It prepares to unleash a devastating, savage charge directly at one of the flanking wolves. Suddenly, Snowsong's ice magic strikes its leg, completely halting its momentum. As the beast stumbles, the young lord loudly orders his men to strike right now. Shaking off their fear, the militia rush from cover, thrusting their spears. 3 spears pierce its soft underbelly, instantly driving the wild boar into a completely berserk rage. It thrashes wildly, its massive tusks flinging one unfortunate soldier into the air. He crashes heavily onto the dirt, blood pooling quickly from his ruined and torn leather armor. A system alert flashes, marking him severely injured and out of action. With one comrade down instantly, the remaining 4 soldiers turn pale with fear. The lord shouts for them to keep their distance, his steady voice calming their rising panic. This beast is almost finished. Raising her staff, Snowsong prepares her next spell. An ice thorn pierces the boar's eye, blinding the creature in a spray of blood. Ruined and blind, it spins wildly as both wolves sink their teeth into its hind legs. He roars for his remaining men to circle around and stab its neck. Stealing their fading courage, the 4 soldiers move in. They drive their iron spears deep into its thick neck, claiming a brutal, hard-won victory. The massive beast thrashes a few times before crashing down, blood staining the dirt red. The system congratulates him on killing the Tier 2 wild boar, granting Snowsong experience and leveling up. 2 of his fighting militia, he rushes to check the injured man. And thankfully, it is a minor flesh wound that missed anything vital. While the soldier is temporarily out of action, the victory was worth it. He smiles at the carcass and harvests it, with the system granting exactly 150 wild boar meat, 1 hide and 2 tusks, a bumper haul. That meat will feed his 40-plus people for days, while the materials will prove highly useful later, as the group prepares to pack up. Your guard wolf suddenly lets out a very low, uneasy growl right at the spot where the wild beast fell. On high alert, he watches Snowsong step forward to soothe the wolf and point toward a patch of crushed ferns. Something is hidden there. He quickly orders 2 of his militia to drag the heavy carcass aside, parting the dense leaves to reveal a shocking sight. This is no treasure chest or glowing ore, it is a human skeleton. Long since decayed, the bone structure and tattered hemp clothes clearly prove this was a human, likely a native of this world, curled in a fetal position, a tragic soul who died in the beast's den, leaving an untold story. He glances at the remains and orders his men to bury the body. Carrying the heavy pork and supporting their injured comrade, they set off for home. By afternoon, they return to find the mansion upgrade already half complete. When the villagers see their lord hauling back such a massive boar, everyone goes wild. They cheer for meat and praise his name, so he promises a grand feast of roast pork tonight. As darkness falls, a bonfire is lit in the village center, sending thick slabs of sizzling pork over the open flames. The delicious aroma fills the air, leaving everyone drooling. As leader, he receives the largest cut, a giant leg, and squeezes wild fruit juice over it. Before taking a bite, but let me tell you, it is incredibly tough, gamey, and salty. He chews with a blank face, glancing over at his happy peasants and militia who are greedily eating with pork grease running down their chins. Well, whatever, having any solid food in this world is a win. While chewing his tough meal, he opens the regional chat out of habit. Ban Soyin is selling off the last 3 portions of rabbit, warning of price hikes. Wang Ho is desperately pleading for a steady food source. Because his wolf cavalry cannot survive on tree bark, while Su Mumu begs for any scraps, offering to trade raw stone just to survive. Reading these desperate messages, he quietly takes another massive bite of his roast. It tastes amazing now. His well-fed people drift off into a deep, satisfied sleep, but the Lord remains awake, standing outside in the night. His eyes are locked on the glowing sphere of light enveloping his mansion. A massive countdown ticking away. When the final seconds hit 0, the system announces the mansion has successfully upgraded to level 2, the protective dome of light vanishes and the basic wooden shelter begins transforming right before him. Its foundation solidifies, the walls thicken, and the weak thatched roof replaced by neat wooden shingles, until it finally looks like a proper mansion, rather than some shaky shack about to collapse. He cannot wait to open the build list where a row of new icons lights up. Farmland, logging camp, and quarry are all resource buildings that raise the gathering speed of specific resources but require peasants assigned to work them, so there is no rush. His gaze settles instead on an icon of a tattered tent. It is a refugee camp. Shelter for wanderers that every week randomly refreshes between 1 and 14. Recruitable Tier 1 units, the count rising with the camp's level. The description hints he might find some pretty unusual helpers here. The cost: 1,000 wood and 500 stone over 8 hours, refreshes weekly, his eyes light up. Talk about a guaranteed way to build an army, and though they are only Tier 1 and the quantity is random, it is the only sustainable source of troops he has seen besides the recruitment order. This is it, he thinks, and confirms. The 2 peasants on watch spring into action on an empty plot mansion, and with that settled, he yawns and returns to the now roomier Lord's mansion and falls into deep sleep. The next morning, a burst of noise wakes him, a peasant calling through the door for him to come quickly and look at the strange new house. He steps out to find a few brave peasants and militia already gathered before the refugee camp, pointing and gesturing. The building is a giant tent of animal skins and old boards with a dim oil lamp at the entrance, giving off a strangely cold and eerie air even in broad daylight. The system reports the camp construction is complete and new units refreshed. He completely ignores the chatter and walks straight up, reaching out to touch the weathered door, and the recruitment window pops open. The units this week, with nearly 7 days until the next refresh, are skeletons, Tier 1, 12. Available at 8 gold coins each. Skeletons, he just pauses. He opens details. Tier 1, level 1. Health only 25, weak across the board, but with Ashen Heart makes them immune to all mental charm and fear. Effects and Fearless of Death fixes their morale at neutral, so it never breaks and never soars. The description names them tireless cannon fodder. Awakened by low-quality necromancy that, by the way, do not need to eat. These attributes are just too trashy. He cannot help complaining. 25 health is 10 under. Goblin, their strength and agility worse too. The glass cannons of glass cannons, probably unable to survive a single bore charge. The only upsides are those 2 skills, immunity to mind control and constant morale, which makes them absolutely loyal soldiers who will never run, and combined with not needing to eat, they are consumables tailor-made for war, but the cost is brutal. 8 gold coins each, 96 for all 12. His first place reward was only 200 gold total. 100 went into the mansion upgrade, and 100 is all he has left, so this single wave would nearly bankrupt him. Gold is plainly hard currency with scarce sources, and a steady supply likely means finding and holding a special node. Like a gold mine, is it worth dumping nearly everything on a pile of skeletons? With these pathetic stats, talk about a tough choice. If he does not recruit them, the territory has no mobile force it can spend at will, and he cannot keep risking his precious militia and Snowsong on every outing, since losing even one. Those militia guys will not keep him safe for very long, but if he recruits now and a better unit pops up next week with absolutely no money left to hire it, that is a massive loss. 2. He glances at his 8 militia, then over at Snowsong and her giant wolf in the distance. His army is just too small. one more wild boar yesterday could have cost him real lives. Wang Ho's wolf cavalry are Tier 3, while his own basic militia are only Tier 1. A direct clash would be like throwing an egg against a rock. To win, he needs plenty of cheap fodder to grind down those riders and let his defensive towers end. Hero deal the main damage. His gaze hardens, deciding to take a gamble. After all, cannon fodder are still technically soldiers, and it is pretty great to have shields that can take a hard hit at the critical moment. He selects the maximum option and recruits 12 skeletons, spending 96 gold, as his total resources plunge from 100 down to 4 in an instant. The heavy, weathered door creaks open, and a thick plume of black mist surges out. The watching peasants and militia immediately back away in absolute terror. With the harsh, grinding sound of dry bone, 12 skeletons step out of the fog, holding rusted iron swords, with 2 cold points of blue sulfur burning inside their empty eye sockets. Walking with stiff robotic steps, they quickly form 2 neat rows before him, thrusting their swords into the ground. In perfect unison before dropping onto one knee, the terrified villagers watch and whisper in fear, wondering what kind of horrible monsters these are and why the Lord has summoned the Walking Dead, terrified they might get slaughtered. Even the basic militia tightly grip their spears, looking tense and wary. The Lord calls for silence, his voice cutting through the panic, and he steps directly between the dark skeletons and his terrified people, turning to face his original subjects. He calmly asks if they are frightened, and they instantly nod. He explains, with a reassuring tone, that he understands their dread, but from this very day on, these undead are officially part of their growing territory. He points toward the motionless skeletons and announces that these are his new soldiers, fearless warriors summoned to protect them and defend their home. They require absolutely no food or sleep, standing completely tireless and unafraid of death, acting as their strongest shield against whatever dangerous beasts lurk. Out in the dark, from now on, all night patrols and guard duties will fall directly to the skeletons, meaning everyone else can sleep soundly. The peasants look at one another, their deep terror slowly morphing into a strange sense of relief. And it makes perfect sense. Scary as these bone warriors look, they will never fight over food and will keep the village safe, making their presence a lot easier to accept. He wraps up by reminding everyone that the undead are his subjects, just like them, and he will not tolerate any discrimination or petty fighting within his borders. When he asks if they understand, they answer together, their collective voices still sounding slightly nervous, but the initial panic is entirely gone. He nods, quite pleased. His clever speech, or rather his ideological work, is going pretty well. Turning to the 12, he issues his first order to patrol the perimeter walls in pairs. They rise up silently and march off in opposite directions with perfectly synchronized steps. Moving in total silence except for the faint clatter of dry bone, he stands at his mansion entrance, watching those 12 skeletons patrol the outer wall with stiff but highly orderly steps, silent except for the rattling of dry bone, blending into the quiet morning. This is way easier than keeping 12 real guard dogs, which constantly require feeding and bark all night. His skeletons are just so much better, clean and highly efficient. He walks over to a farmhouse to check on Sunjai, the wounded militiaman. Still nursing yesterday's injury, he leans against the wall, grimacing. The Lord asks how he is. The warrior snaps upright. Fine, he insists, totally fine. He claims it only hurts a little. The Lord looks at the gash on his chest where the tusk wound has already scabbed over, healing far faster than anyone could have expected. Humans in this world clearly possess much tougher bodies than those back on Blue Star. Even so, the Lord shakes his head, ordering him to stay behind and guard the territory until the wound fully closes. The anxious fighter insists he can still fight, but the Lord calls it an order, needing soldiers who can give their full effort. No wounded soldiers allowed. They are not in a rush anyway. The warrior lowers his head, finally stopping his arguments with the wounded soldier. Settled, the Lord calls Snowsong and the other 7 militia together, telling them the last 2 days of scouting were highly valuable, but today requires much sharper intelligence. He pulls out the goblin skin map and points to a blank stretch north. He tasks her to lead today, heading due north for the same 10 kilometers. Mapping a straight line to see if another territory sits out there, she understands, quickly realizing he wants to confirm the distribution pattern between different lords. He nods in approval, thoroughly pleased because talking to smart subordinates saves so much effort. He adds that if time permits, she should confirm the south too. The rules remain unchanged, reconnaissance and safety first, with immediate retreat. At any sign of danger, she nods, soon leading 3 wild wolves and 7 eager militia deep into the northern woods, with the exploration. Team gone, the Lord turns to the massive task of construction, eager for brand new buildings. The level 2 mansion unlocked. He opens the build menu and orders farmland for 600 wood and 300 stone, then a logging camp for 800 wood, adding a quarry for 500 wood and 1,000 stone. Instantly, the blueprints of 3 resource structures rise on the empty outskirts, and waiting laborers rush in, tools clattering as they start working. These buildings massively boost resource gathering speeds, forming the absolute foundation of territory development. But speed alone is not enough. The population must keep up too, so the Lord turns back to his farmhouses. The limit now is 10. And with only 5 built, he drops 750 wood and 375 stone. Talk about a massive drop. A huge chunk of resources vanishes in an instant. Seeing the numbers fall, there is no regret. Resources are dead weight on their own. Only by turning them into actual strength do they become real wealth. Now construction bars fill the air, painting a beautiful picture of growth. The Lord pulls up a wooden stool, sitting right at the mansion entrance, spreading the increasingly detailed goblin skin map over his lap to sketch with. Charcoal, a neighbor, sits 10 kilometers east, and very likely to the north too. To the west lies the Boar Forest, completely empty of people, as his territory expands. The original trio of arrow towers no longer provides enough coverage. The newly built logging camp and quarry now sit exposed on the outskirts. He will need to enclose them with fresh walls and position defensive towers. Before he knows it, noon arrives. Suddenly, a rapid grinding of bone interrupts his thoughts. He looks up to see a skeleton scout from the Eastern Patrol, sprinting toward him at breakneck speed. It cannot speak, but the flickering soul fire, the skeleton thrashing in its sockets, sends a clear alarm. He drops his map and stands. He strides to the mansion roof for a wide view east, following the pointing skeleton. At the edge of the woods, about a kilometer away, several strange figures are peeking out. Their upper bodies are robust and human, with bronze skin and knotted muscles. But their lower halves are horses, centaurs. He instantly remembers Snowsong's report. That friendly neighbor 10 kilometers to the east. These centaurs are different. They move with real discipline, nothing like brainless wild beasts. They are watching. Spying on his territory, he whispers they have guests, then orders the alarm sounded, sending everyone except the builders rushing inside the Lord's mansion. The bell rings out, piercing the air across the territory. Gathering peasants drop their work and bolt for the mansion in a panic. Up above, phantom archers atop the 3 towers draw back their longbows, their arrows gleaming cold. In an instant, the whole settlement flips from peaceful work to tense combat readiness. Just then, a man walks out of the eastern woods with his hands raised high, waving a tattered scrap of white cloth as if desperate to be seen. He approaches slowly and stops about 120 meters from the wall. That is just outside the range of a basic arrow tower for newbie lords. A safe distance for negotiation. Inbeom stands behind the wall, watching him. The stranger pulls a makeshift sheet metal megaphone from behind his back, lifts it to his mouth, draws a deep breath, and shouts with all his might. He screams that he is a friend, means no harm, and wants to negotiate. Negotiation, Inbeom mutters to himself. He trusts no one in this unfamiliar world where any living person could be a deadly enemy. Yet the stranger holds a white flag and stopped at a safe distance, refusing to talk now. Would only make him look small-minded. He orders a few skeletons beside him to follow, the blue soul fires in their bony frames flickering. As they fall in step, he walks out through the gap in the wall. Flanked by his 4 silent undead guards, he stops 5 meters from the man. This keeps him safe while maintaining pressure, and he asks what the man wants. The stranger looks to be in his early 20s and seems calm, lowering his megaphone. His eyes linger on the skeletons behind the Lord. He says he wants cooperation, suggesting they trade resources, share information, or even form a mutual offensive and defensive alliance. At the very least, they should stay out of each other's way, define borders, and sign a non-aggression treaty. Inbeom counters the offer, asking why he does not approach Wang Ho instead, who has Tier 3 troops, a grade A talent, and serious power. Surely that would be safer. The stranger smiles, saying that speaking of Wang Ho, he can guess his identity. Inbeom asks how he knows, and the man offers to introduce Himself first, his name is Gangjin. Nbiang searches his memory and finds the name right in the area rankings during the Crimson Moon, this Gangjin. Placed 6th, no simple character. Gangjin explains he scouted this area on the second day, spotting the 3 wooden arrow towers and the dense perimeter wall, and deduced that he must be Nbiang, the rank 1 powerhouse. After a pause, Gangjin sweeps his eyes over the impressive defenses and says that in defensive battles, these arrow towers are far better than Wang Ho's wolves. Gangjin sneers. Wang Ho is far too arrogant. Having elite troops and a grade, a talent will only ruin him. His voice drips with pure contempt at the name before shifting to proud confidence. He proudly adds that his own blade is not exactly dull either, tilting his head. From the woods behind him, several half-human, half-horse beasts emerge. They are muscular centaurs with solemn faces, gripping heavy spears. He recruited 9 Tier 2 centaur spearmen at the very start. In battle, they can easily match those 5 wolf cavalry. The young lord's eyes narrow as his system screen pops up. Centaur spearmen, Tier 2 Level 2 with 110 health. They have Strength 22 and Agility 18, making them excellent plains warriors. They bring serious flexibility and high impact, not bad at all. Their stats match the Tier 2 boars he hunted, but with higher agility. They are a real threat. A fresh wave of pressure settles over him. First Wang Ho's Tier 3 cavalry, now Gang Jin's Tier 2 centaurs. It feels like everyone started with elite units, while he has nothing. Just a few weak Tier 1 militia and some fragile fodder skeletons. Literal trash that a strong breeze could easily blow away. But then he glances back at his massive walls and tall arrow towers. With hundreds of hunting traps buried in the grass, his confidence returns. Gangjin's centaurs are strong, but they are still flesh and blood. To attack, they would first have to charge through that trap zone, then face non-stop arrows before even touching his sturdy walls. By the time they actually reached his militia, how many would remain? Gangjin is smart, knowing a direct assault is way too costly. That is exactly why he chose to negotiate, and the Lord agrees. A peaceful neighbor is infinitely better than a hostile predator, especially with a dangerous monster like Wang Ho lurking around. He suggests drawing a boundary line to stay off each other's ground, proposing a winding creek halfway between their territories as the border. The east bank belongs to Gangjin, while the west is his. Any deeper cooperation can wait, as they can message each other anytime. He is definitely not foolish enough to trust a complete stranger. A verbal pact built on mutual wariness is the best option now. Gangjin ponders for a moment before nodding to seal the deal. Trust takes time, but a defined border is a solid start. He bids farewell, waving his hand to call back the solemn centaur troops. They turn back instantly, and Gangjin gives a final nod before leaving. The young lord orders 2 skeletons to shadow them and confirm they are gone. Back in his mansion, he quietly sits down to process this information. This world is getting pretty interesting. Not everyone is foolish. Gangjin is clearly a calculating leader who plans before acting. Is he a potential ally or a dangerous threat? Only time will tell. Just as he sits down to update his defenses, the chat explodes. Wang Ho is spamming messages again, announcing a massive new discovery. After relentless exploration, Wang Ho's wolf cavalry finally confirms a clear pattern. In the newbie zone, except for those unlucky souls dropped on the edges, every lord has a neighbor 10 kilometers away in all 4 directions. The chat channel erupts. Jiang Wei crows that Boss Hao actually figured this out. Zhou Riri frets that she is surrounded, while Ban So Young realizes. This explains a strange territory's shadow she glimpsed while sending out peasants for firewood, scaring her right back home. The young lord's eyes narrow. Just as he thought, Gangjin came from 10 kilometers east. Wang Ho's announcement confirms this suspicion perfectly. This rookie continent is a carefully designed coliseum. Talk about a brutal setup. Snowsong's southward push is no longer necessary, since another lord is almost certainly that way. Wang Ho savors the spotlight, sending a long message telling everyone not to panic. He claims the pattern only proves the importance of his heavenly wolf alliance, since they all come from the same city. He says they should unite, because fighting alone only gets you picked off by monsters and hostile lords. He earnestly advises everyone once again to join and submit to his unified command, insisting that only by pooling resources and concentrating their strength, can they survive this absolute hellhole? He promises to lead them to glory, warning them to stop hesitating. Because the world outside will only grow far more dangerous, making it too late. To find someone powerful, his speech runs highly impassioned. Casting himself as a savior, talk about an ego, the Lord closes the channel. It sounds noble, but Wang Ho just wants their resources handed over. And their bodies spent as cheap fodder. Just then, his 2 scout skeletons. Return mission accomplished. Gang Jin has gone back to his own territory. Surrounded on all sides, the Lord thinks, quite a headache, the next morning. He grabs a strip of wood and carves the 7th notch with his small knife. 7 days, in just 1 week, his territory has changed beyond recognition. Snowsong's exploration team has combed everything within 10 kilometers of home. Every resource node, wild monster den, and water source is marked in crooked charcoal across their expanding goblin skin map. The defenses have reached Tier 2. 4 fresh wooden arrow towers are raised on the perimeter, locking with the original 3 in a deadly crossfire net. Blanketing every single inch, the Level 2 mansion also unlocks a new structure, the wooden fence, 8 wood and 4 minutes per meter. Its durability is pathetic, barely an obstacle, but it is incredibly cheap, costing only 2/5 the price and time of a solid wooden wall. Following his strategy of building deep and storing wide, he orders the peasants to raise a sparse fence line outside the sturdy main walls. With 2 barrier layers, 7 arrow towers, and hundreds of hidden traps, his territory is practically impregnable, even if not a full iron fortress. Snowsong has delivered 1 wild wolf daily, steady as clockwork, giving him 6 now, including those his 8 militia and 12 skeletons he commands. 26 Tier 1 units, with the mighty hero Snowsong leading them. Watching the skeletons patrol while wolves sleep in the farmhouse shade, he feels completely ready. For the first time, his forces actually have some real teeth to them. He has lain low for 6 days. Now, it is time to turn all those red map markers into resources for his warehouse. He gives the order to assemble, and the soldiers scattered across their posts gather in front of the Lord's mansion. At once 8 militia, 12 skeletons, 6 wild wolves, and Snowsong, he tells Lisa and Wang O to stay behind, to keep the peasants reinforcing the outer wall, and orders everyone else to follow. A wise lord never leaves home without some backup, because if his base gets raided while he is gone, he will have nowhere left to go. They answer as one, and the column marches grandly south, leaving the safe zone behind. Their first target is a wild monster camp Snowsong scouted a few days back, a cluster of red gelatinous creatures squatting in a scorched stretch of woodland. She points across the blackened earth, letting him know it is just ahead. He halts the team and slips behind a wide tree to peek. In the clearing, 5 red slimes the size of water vats wiggle slowly around a warm, black stone that still radiates heat, their bodies sparking with stray flames. The system reads them out as Tier 1 fire slimes, with 65 health but painfully low strength and agility. They are basically low-grade fire element creatures moving like sludge, plenty of health, but 0 speed and 0 punch. They are perfect targets to drill his ragtag army and sharpen his battlefield micromanagement. A plan snaps together the moment he counts them. He sends the skeletons charging from the front and orders the militia to fan out to the sides, striking with their spears while keeping a safe distance. He tells Snowsong to roam with the wolves and cover the line using Ice Thorn. The 12 skeletons step off in silence and march straight into the slimes. The fire monsters spot the intruders and spit a barrage of little fireballs that burst against the bony frames, sparks flying and scorch marks blooming, but the damage numbers crawl up by only 2 or 3 points, just a total tickle. The skeletons may be brittle, but these slimes deal even less damage. Worse, they never think to concentrate their fire on a single target. The undead shrug off the burns and bring their rusty swords down hard on the jelly bodies, blades sinking in and lava-colored fluid splashing everywhere. He sends the militia in, and 6 of them flank from the wings, spears punching clean through. Puncture wounds are much harder for a slime to heal than a basic sword slash. Snowsong unleashes the wolves, and the 6 of them flicker across the field like ghosts, never closing on the slimes, just nipping and harassing them to pull their attention. Then, a streak of icy blue light cuts the air and lands square on the largest target, Snowsong's ice thorn. Ice meets fire with a sudden shriek and a cloud of white steam. Frost crusts over the slime, making its slow movements crawl even slower as a bright red 25 floats up off it. That is super effective. He tells her well done to keep freezing them into literal popsicles. With tactics this clean, the fight turns into mere bookkeeping. Skeletons soak up the front, militia and wolves bleed the flanks, and Snowsong acts like a turret, dropping an ice thorn whenever it counts. In under 5 minutes, all 8 fire slimes are reduced to puddles of dull cooling gel. His side comes through untouched, except for a few skeletons whose bones are a little soot-stained. The system hands him a gray resource chest and he steps over, kicks the gel and cracks it open. 150 wood and 100 stone. His face instantly falls, mobilizing his whole army and marching all this way for spoils that won't even cover their fuel costs. Still, it is better than nothing, and he wanted to train his troops and practice commanding them anyway, so the scraps are just a bonus. He orders them to move on, leading his team deeper south. Those slimes were just the appetizer, because the real prize lies ahead. After marching another 2 kilometers, they reach a cliffside where a pitch-black cave mouth opens. It is not large, but a soft white light leaks faintly from inside. A white crystal mine. His eyes instantly light up. He already knows what an illumination lighthouse can do. It is like a sun planted in the dark, offering massive safety through the pitch-black night. If he can secure this mine and extract a steady stream of white, with those, he can easily turn his territory into a bustling city that never sleeps. But before he gets the prize, there are guard dogs. Snowsong reports a large pack of goblins is nesting inside the cave. He leaves his main force behind and creeps up to the entrance with Snowsong and 2 wolves, ducking quietly behind a large boulder to peer out. Inside and outside the entrance, green-skinned monsters cluster everywhere. Some are grinding stone tools, some brawl, and others huddle around a fire roasting something completely unidentifiable. The air is thick with a heavy smell of char. The system identifies them as Tier 1 goblins, but these carry a special suffix the earlier ones lacked. Their attributes are higher, boasting strength 8 and agility 9. He counts 16 in plain sight, with no telling how many more lurk deeper inside. Snowsong whispers that there are too many, warning that a head-on charge could cost them valuable skeletons. He nods because he is thinking the exact same thing. 26 units against these goblins is a guaranteed win, but at what cost? The militia are thick-skinned, meaning their wounds will heal after a day or 2 of rest. If a wolf dies, Snowsong can summon a fresh one tomorrow, but those 12 skeletons are a different story. They cost 8 gold coins each. 96 gold total, and his heart would absolutely bleed to lose even a single soldier. Those low-health bones are so flimsy that a single crude club could shatter them completely. Trading half his military assets just for a single mine is a terrible, ruinous deal. Only a reckless idiot like Wang Ho would pick a direct, head-on brawl like that. He is the king of the cautious path, planning to crush his enemies without ever taking a single scratch. His eyes dart back and forth, weighing the goblin positions against the rocky terrain. Suddenly, inspiration strikes. Let's see if this shameless little plan of his actually works. He pulls Snowsong close, dropping his voice as he points toward the oblivious greenskins. His command is simple: send her 2 wolves forward to give the enemies a quick bite, and then immediately bolting to lure them back. No standing their ground, just pure hit-and-run baiting. She nods in understanding. He immediately leads his main force back 200 meters. Retreating quietly into a dense patch of forest, he positions his skeletons in ambush right at the front, ordering them to wait until the goblins get within 100 meters. Once they are close, the undead will spring the trap. Meanwhile, the militia splits into 2 wings to strike their flanks and backs. Snowsong is ordered to find high ground and fire at will, prioritizing any fast or large targets, a perfect pocket trap arranged in just a few words. The 12 skeletons lie perfectly flat and silent in the tall grass, their pale bones barely visible, while the 6 militia grip their spears behind thick tree trunks. Their palms are slick with sweat. Everything is set. He gives Snowsong the signal, who commands her wolves. Instantly, the 2 gray beasts shoot out of the treeline, skimming the ground. The wolves charge straight for the mine entrance, where several goblins doze against the stone. One wolf lunges and sinks its teeth into a goblin's rear, making the beast leap up. Screaming, the other wolf is craftier, clamping a goblin's wooden club in its jaws, yanking hard and wheeling away in an instant retreat as the goblins erupt into chaos. 4 or 5 of them snatch to grab clubs and tear after the wolves on stubby legs, lacking any formation and blind with rage. They never notice the wolves are leading them straight toward the silent trees. They are coming, he thinks, and the Wolves dive into the woods, slipping neatly around a giant trunk to vanish, leaving the 5 goblins to blunder right into the encirclement he built for them. He gives the order, and 12 skeletons rise from the grass, with sulfur flaring in, their sockets slamming into the goblins before the monsters can even register. What happened? These undead know no fine technique and fear no death as they pin the enemy fast with bone and rusted iron. The goblins try to fight back with clubs, dull thuds landing as low damage numbers tick up, making him wince. To see his summoned soldiers taking hits, he shouts at them, those cost 8 gold coins each, so go easy. The moment the goblins get tangled, 6 militia burst from both wings, driving their sharp spears into goblin sides and backs, dark green. Blood sprays as the monsters shriek and twist, but the skeletons hold them tightly in place. It becomes a total one-sided slaughter, and an ice thorn spell flies from the high ground, shattering the knee of a goblin warrior who is trying to rally, dropping it to the ground as 2 militia swarm in and spear it. In under a minute, all 5 goblins lie dead in pools of blood. His only casualty is one skeleton with a cracked rib, wobbling around comically. He snaps his fingers, telling them to clear the field and prepare for round 2. It is a highly successful plan, and the most efficient and safest way to farm a camp. They run the bait again. Snowsong sends the 2 well-trained wolves up for another lap of baiting, and this time the goblins are much warier. The wolves do not close in, only scratching the dirt near the mine and letting out a taunting howl now and then, until 6 more goblins lose their patience and rush out roaring. The result is exactly the same, lured into his death grove and ground to pieces between the skeletons and militia. He has tasted blood now and intends to bait out every last goblin at the entrance. But on the 3rd run, the enemy script breaks. The remaining goblins, still agitated, only hover near the opening, eyeing the wolves and refusing to give chase, and one of them turns around to bark a rapid string of chatter into the dark cave. They are getting smarter. Is it calling for backup? Sure enough, a few seconds later, a figure noticeably larger shuffles out, looking half again as tall as a normal goblin. Dark green skin covers knotted muscle, wearing a beast skull helmet on its head and a polished stone axe in its fist. The system names it a goblin warrior, tier 2, health 100, strength 20, with a rally skill that lifts nearby morale. An elite monster that has survived countless fights and learned how to command. A tier 2 unit appears and his face hardens. The moment it shows up, 7 or 8 goblins find their nerve, falling in behind the leader into a crooked defensive line, weapons leveled outward. They are not coming out, meaning the baiting is off. He mutters that the snake refuses to leave its hole. Now the choice is to abandon the mine or bite this hard bone right now. He weighs his 12. His skeletons, 6 militia and 6 wolves, face a massive goblin warrior. A direct charge would probably win, but at a brutal price he absolutely refuses to pay. He refuses to throw his life away, his eyes scanning his soldiers. He watches the dense goblin knot crowded at the cave mouth, knowing skeletons are highly fragile. They do not fear death. Resolve hardens as he makes a choice. He tells Snowsong to listen, and she immediately answers that she is ready for battle. The skeletons must charge to disrupt the formation, prying the enemy wide open. As they advance, Snowsong casts Ice Thorn right on the goblin warrior to slow it down. His militia and wolves sprint along the flanks, completely ignoring the weaker goblins. Every single strike targets the leader, because killing the chief first is absolutely crucial. Once that tier 2 warrior falls, the rest will scatter like loose sand in the wind. The troops understand. Militia roar in fury, while the quiet skeletons raise their heads. He calls for a total assault and brings his hand down, unleashing the 12 skeletons. They rush the cave mouth, 100 meters away in a tight, fast line. Their speed builds, and the clash of running bones fuses into one unbroken roar of momentum. Caught off guard, the massive goblin warrior rears back with its heavy axe. The giant beast bellows as the goblins shriek behind it, only a heartbeat before impact. A beam of ice blue light strikes first, burying itself deep in the monster. The ice ray buries itself deep in the warrior's raised right leg, completely shattering its momentum. Pure confusion washes over its face, just as the skeleton wall crashes in. They crash into the brittle goblin defenses with absolute silence, leaving only splintered bone behind. The lead skeleton is instantly smashed to pieces, its glowing blue soul fire snuffed. His heart drops, 8 gold coins gone just like that. Talk about a painful trade. But the sacrifice works, ripping the dense goblin formation wide open. He sends in the reserves immediately, unleashing 6 savage wolves and his eager militia. They pour through the gap, heading straight for the frozen goblin leader. Militia follow close behind, swinging their spears to clear out the scattered goblin regulars. Battle erupts instantly, and the giant warrior is incredibly dangerous, swinging its stone axe. A flat arc hurls one wolf flying, but the remaining 5 clamp onto its heavy limbs. Snowsong's second ice thorn strikes its neck. A quick militiaman spots the opening. He launches his spear with everything he has, the weapon arcing beautifully through the air. It drives deep into the monster's back, and the massive gray body topples. The giant crashes down with a final, unwilling roar, and the remaining goblins instantly panic. They try to flee, only to find the silent skeletons blocking their exit. This skirmish ends quickly, and he walks onto the blood-soaked field to count losses. The air is heavy with scorched bone as he begins tallying up the heavy costs. 2 more are badly damaged, costing 16 gold coins. 1 wolf was also lost. Militia lightly wounded are nothing serious, but winning hurts his wallet, honestly. Even with his wallet aching, the sacrifice was entirely worth it as he looks up. A soft white glow beckons him forward. The crystal mine is finally his. He steps inside the damp cave. Massive veins of glowing crystal run through the walls. The brilliant light makes torches completely useless. He reaches the very center. As soon as he reaches the center, a celebratory system message rings out. He has successfully claimed the miniature white crystal mine, but that is not all. Since it is his first mine, he receives a special blueprint reward. Miner's hut, then the system alerts him that the construction rules have changed. He can now raise resource gathering and defensive structures within a specific range. Around any occupied resource point, these rapid notices light a fire under him. He quickly opens the mine's details, revealing a reserve of 200. It requires miner units, with 5 miners pulling 1 white crystal daily. Production caps at 3 units. This vein is key for advanced magical structures. Only specialized miners can dig here, meaning regular peasants are completely useless. To hit the daily cap of 3, he needs 15 specialized miners. He pulls up the fresh blueprint for the new building, the miner's hut. It costs 400 wood and 400 stone, taking 6 hours to build. Each hut yields 5 miners, so he needs 3 huts to maximize production. But the third notice matters most, the right to build around resource points. He can plant a whole outpost here, a fortress that mines and defends. The strategic value of this is huge. Being surrounded on 4 sides is actually not a curse at all, he realizes, looking at his central map position. A bold design forms in his mind. He will forge his territory into a fortress, webbed with outposts, and this white crystal mine will be the very first. He turns to Snowsong, ordering her to race straight back to the base. She must gather 20 peasants, load up supplies, and rush back immediately. She asks no questions, hops on her wolf, and sprints off in a flash. While she runs off, he orders his remaining troops to clear the area. He crouches down to gather intact bones from the 2 shattered skeletons himself. The system alerts him that recovered bones can repair damaged skeletons. They also serve as building materials, making these undead highly recyclable. Talk about eco-friendly troops, he posts the 10 remaining skeletons and 6 militia to guard the cave entrance, then sits down on a rock. He begins sketching the outpost plan, 3 miners' huts deep inside for safety. At least 2 arrow towers will stand at the entrance to create a crossfire. The entire perimeter will be fenced off and packed with deadly hunting traps. With a rival lord still to the south, a solid garrison is absolutely necessary. Militia are loyal but irreplaceable, while skeletons are cheap, expendable fodder. He decides to station just 2 militia soldiers here at the outpost, paired with 2 defensive towers to easily shrug off minor attacks. This setup will stall Tier 1 enemies and buy him enough time to reinforce. The wait drags on, but he stays active, patrolling a kilometer around the mine. He clears out a few stray beasts while getting a feel for the terrain. By afternoon, Snowsong returns leading a column of peasants and supplies. He orders construction to start immediately, wasting not a single second. The 20 peasants get straight to work. His rank a talent slashes build costs, cutting both time and resources in half, so the buildings rise rapidly. Seeing these structures climb out of the dirt brings a deep sense of relief. But he cannot stay here forever, glancing at the setting western sun. He checks the map, noting that the western forest hides another cave. It is likely an iron mine, the exact resource he desperately needs. For trap building and high-tier upgrades, he grabs Snowsong, leaving 4 behind. He leaves the militia and skeletons to guard the mine, taking 7 wolves along. They march deep into the western forest, a place far more ancient than the south. Towering trees block out the sun, while rotting leaves blanket the dark floor. 30 minutes later, they reach a steep cliff and spot a small, dark cave opening. Chewed bones and strange, dark rocks lie scattered all around the entrance. He picks up a heavy stone, feeling its rough weight, low-grade iron ore. Finding a real iron mine is a massive win, but he quickly signals for silence. They creep toward a thicket as a pack of bizarre creatures gathers at the mouth. They have massive heads, making up nearly a third of their entire bodies. Those giant skulls sit directly on short, necklace frames with blurred, tiny eyes. Clutching crude wooden spears, the system officially identifies these creatures. These are Tier 1 cave dwellers with 45 health, similar to a goblin. Their unique skill is blindness immunity, because their eyes withered away long ago. Instead, they track everything using highly sensitive hearing and sharp smell. Pitch black darkness means nothing to them, and he counts 30 of them. They are on high alert, occasionally pressing those giant heads against the ground. They are listening. Snowsong whispers that there are far more here than goblins. These things look much tougher to manage, and he silently nods in agreement. Their stats match the goblins, but the massive crowd is a major problem. If there is a Tier 2 elite hidden inside, things will get incredibly ugly. His usual bait-and-run tactics will not work against creatures tracking by sound. Sending the wolves to distract them is useless, meaning this requires a brutal fight. Charging 20 enemies directly would cost him quite a few valuable skeleton soldiers. At 8 gold coins each, and with only 4 left, he cannot afford losses. Bleeding resources now is out of the question, so he aborts the plan. The golden rule of being cautious is simple: never fight an uncertain battle. He must avoid losing at all costs and bide his time for now. Snowsong can summon a new wolf daily, and the camp refresh is coming. Praying for a lucky surprise next week, he quietly signals his partner to retreat. They slip away into the shadows, because this siege requires a much longer game. At dawn, he stretches out on his new bed inside the mansion, joints popping. Before he can even fully wake up, a series of chilling system alerts flashes. The second stage of the trial, the terrifying Crimson Moon, starts after midnight tonight. But get this upcoming monster tide is infinitely worse than the first. Every lord must fight with everything they have, because failure means immediate execution. Execution again. Instantly, all trace of sleepiness vanishes from his mind. Mutters of frustration echo as he quickly gets dressed and throws open the door. Stepping outside, he carefully inspects his defenses: 7 sturdy arrow towers. 2 defensive barriers and over 100 hunting traps sit ready for battle. This setup easily crushed goblins, but against this legendary tide, he has doubts. It simply is not safe enough, and his careful nature demands absolute perfection. Leaving a single weak spot in his territory is not an option. Losing even 1 soldier hurts, so building static defenses is far more practical. Cold structures do not blade, making them the cheapest way to grind enemies down. Deciding on the safest play, he instantly pulls up the construction menu. He locks onto the wooden arrow tower. Fortunately, his lumber and stone reserves have grown fat over the past few days. He tells himself resources are meant to be spent. He immediately places orders for 8 more defensive towers. At the 4 weak corners, the system asks him to confirm 1,600 wood and 800 stone for the build, and he confirms without a single flinch. A huge chunk vanishes from his stores, but as those 8 phantom blueprints rise and the peasants swarm them with tools, his heart finally eases. 15 wooden towers, centered on the mansion, are woven into a deadly, layered, staggered web of fire. Reaching near and far, high or low, no ground attacker escapes this rain. From every single angle, but towers alone will not be enough, so he has the peasants pour all new wood and stone into reinforcing the outer wall. In Palisade, by evening, Snowsong returns from the southern mine, leading a squad of peasants, pushing a crude wheelbarrow loaded with the day's white crystals. Soft light spills off them as she tells him the first batch has finally arrived. Perfect timing, and his spirits soar. He selects 3 key spots inside the territory to raise 3 illumination lighthouses. The system demands 450 wood, 225 stone, and 3 white crystals. He confirms. The moment they are finished, he orders every lighthouse lit. The tall beacons flare together, their soft white light tearing the dark off the entire valley, the outer defense zone included, leaving it bright as noon. Every unit in the territory steadies. He nods with satisfaction, then checks the area channel, which is the usual wall of wailing. People are fresh off repairing yesterday's walls. They are absolutely sure they are dead this time, screaming for Ho Hyung to save them from a tide that is supposedly much worse. Wang Ho's reply surfaces fast, drenched in arrogant authority, openly sneering at the sheer panic of country bumpkins who have never seen the world. He declares he has just recruited a few more wolf cavalry, growing so much stronger that this monster tide is just a delivery of free resources. He orders his alliance to snap to attention, promising that after tonight, they will be the region's sole overlords. While all the ungrateful wretches get torn apart, that news jolts him. Wolf cavalry are Tier 3, impossible to recruit from a standard refugee camp, which means Wang Ho has dug up a building that recruits them directly. 5 wolf cavalry are a limited force, but a steady stream of them is something else entirely. He cannot underestimate this rival. The clock crawls toward midnight, and exactly at midnight, the crimson moon descends. Its blood-red light shines richer than last time, with a faint reek of blood threading the air. The monsters no longer come from a single direction. A system warning flashes that a massive tide is closing in on every side of his territory at once. He stands on the mansion roof, expression grave, watching dense black shapes surge out of the dark at the edge of the beacon light. Among the frenzied goblins from last time, there is a new enemy, far taller than a goblin, with dark red skin, carrying huge morning stars that shake the ground as they charge. The system names them Goblin Thugs, Tier 2. Health 115, Strength 22, Heavy Strike Skill, Elite strong enough to crack wooden shields with ease. Tier 2 is just common cannon fodder now, he realizes. Sucking in a breath, he watches at least a dozen thugs lead a wave of nearly 100 frenzied goblins rush in like an unstoppable green wave. With this lineup, any ordinary lord gets erased on the spot. He draws the stone axe taken from the goblin warrior and grips it tight, bracing for the worst, ready to lead a street fight himself if the front line breaks. The monsters slam into the hunting trap zone, and the lead goblins snap into the jaws, shrieking, legs bloodied, speed gutted. But the thugs behind simply trample their own and bull right through. Then all 15 arrow towers open up at once, arrows pouring down like a heavy rain, bloody bursts erupting across the horde, casualties climbing rapidly into the 40s. The ordinary frenzied goblins die almost instantly, dropping down in heaps, but the thugs are stubborn, a single arrow only scratching off 20 or so. Some of them bat the shafts aside with morning stars, taking next to no damage. The first thugs through the rain smash into the outer palisade and the flimsy wooden fence shreds like paper. He roars from the roof, Snowsong, freeze them, and she answers, working her staff beneath the tower, ice spikes streaking into the lead thugs, frost crusting them as their speed drags down. He orders the skeletons to hold the line, and 10 silent ones march in even steps at the thugs, breaching the palisade, not to kill, but to spend their fragile bones, buying precious time for the towers behind. A thug's morning star comes down before one skeleton can raise its sword. Shattered, the bone frame bursts apart. 8 gold coins gone, pure waste. Still, his gaze only grows colder. He commands the militia and the wolf pack to strike the flanks and go for the legs, and 6 militia and 6 wolves pour out the gap in the main wall, stabbing into the thug's sides like a pair of sharp knives. The field becomes a total meat grinder. Towers raining death from above, skeletons building a wall out of their own bodies, militia and wolves harassing and finishing, but the sheer impact of the thugs makes the entire line shudder. Another thug breaks past the skeletons and slams its star into the sturdy wooden wall, the system reporting the wall's durability down 25 points in one hit. Unbelievable damage compared to those goblins. Before his eyelid twitches, keep them back, they cannot touch that wall. He makes the call, ordering every militiaman to fall back behind the wall and thrust through the firing slits, while telling the wolves to keep up the harassment. As Snowsong stops conserving mana and unleashes Ice Storm as her basic attack, the tactics shift instantly. Under cover, the militia retreat, thrusting their spears through the slits, safe and highly efficient. Meanwhile, Snowsong opens the throttle on her ice spikes until they barely stop, freezing any thug that nears the wall in place. The battle finally steadies. Trapped, the monsters are pinned outside, broken under The arrow rain, this brutal exchange runs a full 10 minutes, and when the last thug shot into a pincushion topples over unwillingly, the field goes silent. He lets out a long breath, his axe hands soaked with sweat, and surveys the carnage. Outside, corpses are heaped, dark green blood running in little streams. He tallies the cost: brutal losses, 6 skeletons crushed, 2 militia wounded by beasts crossing the line. Fortunately, it's not fatal thanks to their thick health. 2 wolves dead, a wide gap torn right in the wall, a heavy chunk of hunting traps spent, a massive loss, he thinks, staring at the 6 fallen skeletons until his heart aches and twitches. 48 gold coins vanished just like that, but looking at the spoils blanketing the ground and the rewards about to drop, his mood recovers. But wait. What is gone is gone. As long as he stands, it is all profit. The system announces the second wave is over, settling the scores by each lord's performance, and a leaderboard blooms before every survivor. The names in order shuffled hard this time. Wang Ho sits first at 15 minutes 12 seconds. And Rai is second at 18:35. He lands third at 20:02 with Yu Obo fourth. He looks at the name above his without surprise. 5 wolf cavalry are strong but few. And once the count climbs, the math changes. It is the second place Han Rai who makes him look twice, a lord who has ranked high since the first Crimson Moon yet never spoke a word in the channel, a total ghost, and now he has slipped past him to chase Wang Ho's heels. Talk about a silent but deadly threat. Strength: the chat channel detonates after a beat of silence, with sycophants crowing that Wang Ho is first and invincible, sniping at his drop to third, claiming last. Time was pure luck, with others asking who this Han Rai even is. Wang Ho has plainly been lurking, drinking in the praise, as he fires off a fresh announcement. Swollen with pride, telling everyone they have just seen absolute strength. He boasts that he lucked into a blueprint for an evil wolf camp and can now mint wolf cavalry without end, that his squad has swelled to 15 riders, and that he has also seized an outdoor gold mine and will never run out of gold again. An evil wolf camp, a gold mine, and 15 wolf cavalry. This string of bombshells stops the chat channel's breath. If the old Wang Ho was just a powerful prospective ally, this version is taking the rough shape of a regional hegemon. He turns the knife toward our protagonist, demanding to know why he is silent this time, telling him that if he is smart, he will kneel and be his dog right now, and he might toss him a scrap. He closes the channel without expression. The tension is rising now, real pressure. 15 tier 3. Wolf cavalry are enough to crush any lord at this stage, and a tower volley barely scratch them, dealing only a dozen or 20 damage. He must grow his combat power fast or find a way to counter cavalry. Shaking it off, he turns to the rewards, landing for third place. 2 white resource chests, a green recruitment order, and a random building blueprint chest. 3 beams of light settling into storage. The green chest he won for first place last time still funds days of spending, so third place this time should not be bad either. He opens the white chests, giving him 700 wood, 250 stone, 80 iron ore, and then 650 wood, 300 stone, and 90 gold coins. His face darkens. The pair together is not half of what that single green chest gave him. The gap, brutal, still. Even a tiny scrap is still meat, especially the gold for recruiting. He takes out the green recruitment order, which randomly summons between 1 and 10 troops from tier 2 to tier 4. The white order gave him 8 militia last time, so the green should at least cough up a tier 3 soldier, even if there are fewer of them. He rubs his hands and uses it. Green light bursts before the mansion, and as it scatters, 7 strange figures stand on the open ground, upright, human tall, sheathed in tough green scales, with lizard heads and simple longbows on their backs, their golden slit pupils sharp with wariness. The system identifies them as lizardmen archers, tier 2 with 90 health, 14 strength, and the precise shot skill. Superb. Hunters of the swamps, born to the bow. 7 tier 2 troops. He sighs at his luck. He rubs his temple, the bare minimum draw again. Wang Ho opens with wolf cavalry, and his cards look about as dark as a soot-covered pot. Still, better than nothing. Those 7 archers cover his weakest spot perfectly, providing a mobile ranged force, since Snowsong's Ice Thorn has way too long a cooldown and too heavy a mana cost to rely on for steady damage. But with these 7, his tactical options open up. They plant their heavy bows and kneel, answering his summons with low, horse-like hisses. He nods satisfied, then pulls up Snowsong's stats. That massive defensive clash pushed her to level 3, her stats jumping in a way the militia Never could, since common troops only gain a single point per level, looking as though they never leveled. True heroes have much higher growth, the real assets worth investing in. Next is his random building chest, which previously left him with a useless farmhouse, locked until his mansion is upgraded. This time he really needs something that actually matters, hopefully a recruiting building of some kind. He clasps his hands, praying to the gaming gods. What will this chest reward him with? A mushroom house blueprint. His chest tightens as he reads the description, a damp cave full of strange mushrooms, the home of cave dwellers, letting him recruit a weekly batch that grows with level. It needs 800 wood, 1200 stone, 50 rotten clay in 10 hours. Cave dwellers, the iron mine in the western forest. Instantly flashes through his mind, since it is guarded by exactly those creatures. Brilliant plan starts to form. Human and cave dweller languages definitely do not mix, but cave dweller to cave dweller. If he builds this mushroom house first, recruits a few of his own, and sends them to speak with their wild kin in the iron mine, could he convince them to surrender without spilling a single drop of blood? Once this idea takes root, he cannot shake it. Attacking the mine, even if they win, would cause heavy casualties, but if negotiation works, he takes the mine completely undamaged, gaining free monster troops in an incredibly massive windfall. It is a big gamble. The two groups might just start fighting immediately on sight and wreck everything, but with rewards this huge, how could he resist the gamble? The only obstacle is that rotten clay. He opens his map and searches every resource point Snowsong marked, until his eyes land on a swamp area to the northwest. A swamp is bound to have clay, so he decides to lead a harvesting team there at dawn. The next morning, as sunlight spills into his mansion, he steps outside to inspect his heavily battered territory. The gaping hole in the wall is painful, the outer fence shattered, and two arrow towers are on the verge of collapsing. He orders repairs, and the waiting peasants rush to work with tools and lumber. He instructs them to replace the triggered traps, ordering 20 more to be laid down around the wall's breach. Then he prepares his forces for the expedition, bringing Snowsong and 2 healthy militia members, mobilizes his skeleton soldiers, brings the new lizard men for their first battle, and selects 20 peasants. Their destination is the northwestern swamp to search for that rotten clay. The massive expedition team assembles and marches out, heading straight northwest. The journey is so quiet they do not spot a single rabbit. After nearly an hour, the foul stench of decaying mud hits them as the swamp appears. Strange plants floating on the dark green water, with gas bubbles occasionally rising to the surface. He pinches his nose in disgust, knowing they have finally arrived. He points his peasants toward a patch of dark mud at the edge to start digging. The system flags the spot. They harvest 1 rotten clay at a time, taking 3 minutes each. The 20 workers dig in while he spreads his soldiers into a defensive security ring, sitting on a dry stone to watch the progress. Bored out of his mind, suddenly a scout wolf trots back and yips low to Snowsong, who reports movement. He stands up at once, following the wolf to crouch quietly. Behind a mound, 100 meters away, 4 goblins skulk along. Behind them, a human scans his surroundings warily, wearing plain linen and carrying a short sword. Is he the Northern Lord? Are those goblins his troops? The thought flickers. A swamp, a man from due north. As he watches, the other lord seems to feel it too. His head snaps up, locking eyes across the distance. 100 meters. He holds still, curious to see how this new neighbor reacts. Seconds later, the stranger surprises him, raising a hand to wave toward his position, a greeting or a taunt, who knows. He gestures to his goblins, turns, and vanishes into the distant trees without hesitation. Interesting, the Lord thinks, standing up from the mound. He showed no hostility, which is great news, but caution remains. He tells Snowsong to keep the wolves watching north closely, and she answers. The digging goes on. As for that Northern Lord, as long as he stays out of his hair, there is no need to handle him. Yet half an hour later, 50 rotten clay are gathered. He tells the team to pack up and leads them back, heavily loaded with resources. On the way, a wolf growls at a small clearing. He halts the team to investigate. 7 or 8 earthy yellow creatures, looking like lumps of writhing mud. Wiggle slowly, he inspects them. Tier 1 mud slimes, health 105. Strength 4, agility 3, low-grade earth elements that move slower than dirt but survive forever. Agility 3, he almost laughs, slower than a crawling turtle, but their high health puts them near Tier 2 goblins. For bulk, a perfect target dummy. His eyes shift to his 7 lizard Men archers, he points at the slimes, telling the 7 of them to handle it and keep their distance. The lizard heads nod, seeming to fully catch his meaning, quickly forming a loose line to walk about 50 meters out, more than enough. Range for archers, bowstrings sing, 7 arrows tearing through the air. To bury themselves in the mud bodies with dull thuds, damaged numbers float. Up in the 30s, not much worse than a tower and far faster, the mud slimes finally react, dragging themselves toward the lizard men at a pace that makes him yawn. The archers notch, draw, and loose in fluid rhythm, volley after volley, and the whole scene turns comic. 7 archers rain fire while 8 tanks die on a charge that never even touches a hem. Soon, every mud slime is a lifeless heap of muck. This is not a battle, it is pure bullying. The system rewards him with a chest. He kicks the mud aside and opens 200 stone and 10 iron ore. Better than nothing, he sighs. A bit of target practice. They reach home by afternoon, finding the wall and fence mended. 20 fresh hunting traps gleam cold at key junctions. Taking no rest, he opens his construction menu to select the new blueprint, the mushroom house. 800 wood, 1200 stone, 50 rotten clay. He confirms the build, and a cave silhouette rises from a corner of the territory. Peasants swarm it with clanging tools as a 10-hour countdown opens in his view. He stares at the progress bar with anticipation, his mind on the iron mine. It lies to the west, packed with nesting cave dwellers. One night quickly passes. In a corner of the territory, a new structure stands finished, a giant earth mound. It sits half sunk in the ground, mossy and slick, with a pitch-black entrance. Glowing mushrooms ring the opening of this mushroom house. He walks up slowly. He presses his palm against the wet stone beside the opening. It reads level 1. It refreshes 7 to 14 tier 1 cave dwellers each week. The system allows upgrades once the mansion hits level 3. Not bad at all. He nods and opens the recruitment screen, showing 10 cave dwellers. They cost 12 gold coins each, which is 50% more than a skeleton. But the stats are higher, with 45 health, strength 8, and constitution 9. They even have that same immunity to blindness. This money must be spent. Negotiation is his goal, not bloodshed, but peace always rests on raw power. He cannot just send a single envoy to 30 of those wild cave dwellers. Asking nicely would only get his messenger beaten into an absolute paste. He needs absolute force backing his words. This is where it gets interesting. Checking his balance, he has 104 gold, not enough for all 10. Gritting his teeth, he gambles and recruits 8 for 96 gold. He confirms the purchase, and his gold drops to a pitiful 8 coins. The mushroom house mouth stays dark and silent, making him wonder if it froze. Then 8 bulky green figures shuffle out, gripping crude short spears. They gaze around blankly before turning toward him and planting their spears in salute. A bit ugly, but they are his troops now. He waves his hand grandly. He orders Snowsong and her wolves, along with every militia member, to assemble. The skeletons, the lizard man archers, and the 8 new cave dwellers fall in. 20 peasants grab their tools to march alongside them. The massive column forms. 50 units gather, including Snowsong, 6 wolves, 6 militia, and 6 skeletons. Plus 7 lizard man archers, 8 cave dwellers, and 20 peasants. Honestly, this massive army is so grand it looks ready to tear down kingdoms. They march straight for the western forest. This time there is no sneaking around. He commands 2 peasants to pull out their tools and start hammering a racket. The sudden noise instantly alerts the wild cave dwellers guarding the mine entrance. Weapons go up as their gray heads swing toward the source, teeth bared. Low growls rise in their throats. He halts his force 200 meters back. He arrays the militia and cave dwellers up front, keeping archers right behind them. Skeletons and wolves cover the flanks, with 20 tool-bearing peasants guarding the rear. The dark mass radiates immense pressure. He sends 2 of his recruited troops forward. They must deliver the terms, lay down arms, clear out, and join him. The envoys stand stunned, trade a quick glance, and then set off slowly. They trundle toward the cave on short legs. Suddenly, a system notice pops up. It detects his attempt to persuade the wild tribe to surrender. The system begins checking their friendliness, calculating a path from hostile to loyal. Their ultimate fate will be decided by the system. Initial friendliness toward him, friendly, then it runs the surrender. Judgment declaring a success. The tribe has agreed to surrender. The string of words leaves him stunned. Just like that, it worked. Why? Did he sprout some kind and gentle face overnight, or has his kingly aura climbed? So Hyatt converts wild monsters from hundreds of meters off, the two cave dwellers he sent are not even halfway there. A commotion stirs near the mouth, and a figure larger than a regular cave dweller walks out. Its green skin is shot through with magma red patterns. His two messengers reach it and chatter something. A moment later, the red one leads the entire tribe out, weapons set down, all of them shuffling toward his position. The two spokesmen run back, pointing at the red leader and chattering again, though he cannot parse a word. The system kindly translates, relaying that cave dweller Chief Stonehammer is willing to lead his whole tribe to pledge allegiance and asks for his protection. The system adds that neutral, friendly, or intimate units that defect have their loyalty fixed at adoration and will never betray him. That dispels the last of his doubt. He looks the red cave dweller over, reading him. Hell Caveman Tier 2, Health 105, Strength 21, Blindness Immunity, and Elite mutated by absorbing a little subterranean fire, stronger in body and arm. A Tier 2 Elite, and there are several, their number slightly below the Tier 2 Goblins, but Tier 2 all the same. Talk about a close call, fear passes through him. Had they actually fought with his thin resources, victory was a question, never mind a flawless one. This persuasion is a massive profit. He clears his throat, puts on an air of depth, and tells the chief he accepts his allegiance. Then, to be safe, he takes Snowsong and the militia as guards and steps cautiously into the iron mine. The system congratulates him on occupying the small iron mine. Since he is the first to take an iron point, it hands him a bonus blueprint. The mine holds a reserve of 3,000, 1 iron ore per miner per day, capped at 20 units daily. The furnace smelts unrefined ore into iron ore, assigned miners smelting up to 20 units a day, so full output means 20 miners digging and 5 smelting, 25 in all, 5 miners' huts, and 1 furnace for a steady 20 iron ore a day, a crucial strategic resource. He gives the order to start work, and the 20 peasants pick sites near the mouth and begin raising miners' huts and the furnace. Then he patrols the perimeter and sketches the fortifications, 4 arrow towers at the cave mouth walls. Round the outside, an animal traps scattered through. That done, he walks out to inspect the troops he just absorbed. 33 regular cave dwellers, 3 Tier 2. Hell Cavemen, 36 units total, more than double the goblin pack at the white crystal mine. Time to assign garrisons, he thinks, stroking his chin. Both mine strongholds need manpower. He leaves 8 Tier 1 cave dwellers here, sending 8 more to the white crystal mine, swapping the 2 militia back. He plans to raise another tower or 2 next visit. Now, any rival lord eyeing them has to think twice. Cave dwellers live in caves by nature, so setting them to guard the mines is the perfect fit. He counts the army at his command, and ambition surges. 36 cave dwellers, 3 of them Tier 2 elites. His ground force is more than double that of Stroke, and looking over the rest of his troops, an unfamiliar confidence surges within him. He has laid low long enough. It is finally time to clear out the surrounding trash. He opens the goblin skin map, revealing the red charcoal circles. These are the Tier 1 wild camps Snowsong scouted, the ones he could only nibble at before due to his weakness. Now he wants every single one. He waves his formidable column forward. Their first target is a small wild boar camp east of his territory. 3 Tier 1 boars are rooting in the woods. Before, he would have had to kite them carefully with Snowsong's ice thorn, but not today. He orders the cave dwellers and militia to form a front line, sending his wolves to harass the hind legs from the flanks while the lizardmen fire freely. The shield wall of cave dwellers and militia moves forward like a solid rampart, and the 3 boars glare with red eyes and charge headfirst. Tusks slam into the cave dwellers, the impact knocking some down, but in that stalled moment, 6 wolves dart toward their vulnerable hind legs, while 7 lizardmen put arrows straight into eyes and necks. Snowsong does not even bother, simply standing aside with her staff. Watching, in under 30 seconds, the 3 boars are reduced to bleeding corpses. His only cost is a couple of cave dwellers knocked over and lightly scratched. Completely negligible, he moves them to the next target, and a 7-unit goblin camp falls. Without suspense, the greenskins are sieved by lizardmen arrows and militia spears. Before they can even form a line, with the system granting him a gray chest, he keeps going. He sweeps through the camps around his territory like an autumn wind stripping leaves every red marker, crumbling the instant his mixed army arrives. Before long, he cannot even be bothered to command and hands authority to Snowsong, while he drifts at the back of the column to slack off. Before he even notices, the map markers are nearly all gone, only the last. Remains, he saved the camp deeper in the swamp for last because of snow songs. Report naming it the largest, containing a single Tier 2 elite, the army. Reaches an open, shallow pond dotted with green duckweed, more than 10 water. Blue jelly creatures are hopping and playing on the surface. One is noticeably larger and darker, sprawling lazily in the center. The system reads the small ones as water droplet slimes Tier 1, and the big one as a water accumulation slime. Tier 2 health 170. Skills include water healing and split, an evolved slime with minor healing and a strange proliferation ability. Slimes again, he mutters. They are one of the starter village's 3 great plagues, as common as goblins and boars, though they are thick, slow, and weak, pretty easy to handle. He calls for battle stations, shedding any contempt since even a lion strikes a rabbit at full force. He puts the cave dwellers and militia up front, sets the lizard men to ready a volley on the big one, and has Snowsong ready in Ice Thorn to see if it freezes. His army deploys slow and grim toward the pond. And the slimes notice, breaking off their play to cluster around the Tier 2 one. Their bodies ripple, plopping out warning sounds. He's about to call a general attack when something incredibly bizarre happens. The largest water accumulation slime hops out from the group, showing absolutely no hostility. It simply stops in front of his army, swaying its body up and down as if bowing. He is completely stunned. What move is this? Surrendering because it cannot win. Then a sudden notice drops his jaw. The system detects the wild water accumulation slime attempting. He checks their affinity, finding it friendly as the surrender processes. The system declares success. The slime clan officially surrenders, leaving him totally speechless. His jaw drops in sheer disbelief. What is even happening here? With the cave dwellers, he at least had to send a negotiator to threaten and bribe them, but this time he barely even deployed his troops before the enemy leader slid to its knees, displaying a friendly attitude right from the start. Could he actually have a kingly aura, he wonders, touching his face in confusion. Is he just too handsome? He shrugs it off since he cannot find an answer. Killing them only gives minor loot and a bit of experience, but accepting the surrender gains him over a dozen free troops. Even if these slimes are slow and weak, they have massive health pools. They are perfect meat shields, especially that Tier 2 healer that can split into more. It is basically a living army factory. This is an absolute win. He nods at the water accumulation slime and accepts their surrender, as if the little creature understands it. Bounces happily on the spot, briefly squishing its body into a cute heart shape before splashing toward its companions in the pond to spread the news. The system confirms that 1 big slime and 14 droplet slimes have joined his territory, with their loyalty locked at absolute adoration. 15 new units are added to his roster, making him grin from ear to ear. He checks the details of the Tier 2 slime. Its passive ability periodically spawns a brand new water droplet slime when resting in water, though the spawn rate is highly erratic, swayed by the environment and its condition. His eyes light up. It is basically a mobile recruitment center that operates completely for free. The split timing is random, but having it beats nothing, as long as he keeps this unit near water. He will get a steady stream of free shields. Talk about a massive win, he thinks, looking at the bouncy blue jellies with total affection. These are not dangerous monsters at all, just a lovely pack of walking resource packs. He gently pats the cool, slippery body of the main slime and says, they are with him now, promising to treat them well. It sways happily under his touch. Ordering his entire army to disperse, he heads back home with a light heart, leading his new slime squad behind him. The massive sweep cleared all nearby threats while absorbing 2 entire forces, sending his overall strength surging to an massive new level. The next morning, he stretches and steps out of his manor, feeling refreshed and still riding high from yesterday's clean sweep and those dozen droplet slimes are bumping mindlessly into each other in a corner, while the massive leader slime just lies completely sluggish on the ground. This simply will not do. He summons a few peasants and instructs them to dig a large trench and fill it with water to make a proper home for the blue jellies. With his absolute command, they grab their shovels and set to work. Just as he finishes setting up their quarters, a system notification pops up. Right on cue, the refugee camp has refreshed with new units. A fresh week begins. And his excitement builds as he rubs his hands and heads for the tattered tent. Last time was skeletons, fragile but useful. This time he hopes for something stronger. He opens The recruitment interface filled with massive hope, only for his happy smile to freeze instantly. Butterfly. Sprites at Tier 1, 10 are available for 8 gold coins each, checking their details. They have 20 health, 4 strength, and 13 agility, just tiny insects loving sunshine. This creature can fly naturally, but it is incredibly fragile, leaving him completely silent. 20 health, it ranks even lower than a basic skeleton. A single tap would shatter it, its strength is low and damage is pathetic. Unlike a basic slime, this monster cannot even take a single hit. But with 13 agility, it is his first flying unit. Air power changes everything. It means scouting, constant harassment, and support for ground troops. They can even slip past defenses to eliminate enemy commanders. The possibilities are endless, but he looks at his panel and sees only 8 gold. He can only afford a single sprite. Now comes the big decision. Buying it means wasting his precious gold on a very weak unit. But skipping it means missing a rare flying scout he might never see again. Gritting his teeth, he decides to buy it anyway as a flying mascot. At the very least, it will make a pretty decent mobile scout. He spends his final 8 gold on one butterfly sprite, hitting 0. Suddenly, a warm golden glow drifts right out of the recruitment tent. A small meter-tall creature flutters out on delicate, transparent butterfly wings. Its pale yellow body has cute brown spots, golden hair, and a weird weapon. The blade is sized between a dagger and a short sword. It circles him curiously. The tiny sprite hovers in front of its new master, tilting its head. He admits it is pretty cute, jokingly telling it to just look adorable. But right as he wonders how to afford more of these sprites, news arrives. Militia man runs up to report that his eastern neighbor has returned. It is Gang Jin. Surprised, the leader wonders what this guy wants now. He tells the guard to have the visitor wait at the usual spot. Grabbing Snowsong and his 2 new cavemen as muscle, he heads to the border. The cavemen are massive, their skin covered in glowing, magma-red patterns. Holding heavy stone spears, they are clearly not to be messed with. Surprisingly, Gangjin stays completely calm when seeing these Tier 2 beasts. His own troops were high level from the start, so he is not easily fazed. He notes that in just a few days, this territory has grown incredibly strong. The visitor is clearly impressed, but our main character just shrugs it off. He gets straight to the point, asking why his neighbor has come. Gangjin smiles, proposing that they discuss a massive new business deal. When asked how big, his neighbor gets serious and points to the map. Right between their 2 borders, he has discovered a massive gold mine. Gold mine, the main character freezes, since he was literally just craving cash. Talk about perfect timing, but Gangjin quickly dampens the mood. He warns him not to celebrate yet, because the mine is occupied. A tough pack of hostile dwarves has already claimed the area. The guards blocking the entrance are all durable, high-defense Tier 2 dwarves. To make matters worse, their leader is a deadly Tier 3 dwarf king. Tier 3, the main character, frowns, knowing his own best troops are only Tier 2. He has never actually fought a Tier 3 threat head-on before. Gangjin tried a few probing attacks, but they got absolutely crushed. Now he wants to team up since he cannot take this prize alone. He wants to know if the guy needs help taking the mine and what his cut is. Once they secure it, Gangjin offers a 50-50 split. That is a pretty tempting offer. Gangjin adds another sweetener, promising to supply every single construction resource the mine needs. From the miners' huts to the furnace, he has to manage absolutely nothing. Just bring his own troops and fight alongside him to capture the mine. Every single afternoon, Gangjin will send his share of the gold down this very stream. The terms drip with sincerity. Gangjin covers almost all upfront costs, and he only needs to join one battle to earn a daily income. That means the Dwarf King has truly terrified him. He runs the numbers fast. There is real risk, a Tier 3 dwarf King is no easy target. Casualties are guaranteed, and Gangjin might play dirty tricks mid-fight, using his men as cannon fodder or turning on him after they win. But look at that massive reward, a completely endless, steady supply of gold. It will fund those 10 butterfly sprites and even stronger troops down the line. As for potential betrayal, he glances at the silent hell caveman standing at his back. He thinks of the slimes, skeletons, and lizardmen back home, and decides that he is strong and well-stocked enough now that the man's trickery does not scare him. He tells him the offer is tempting, but asks how he can trust him not to burn the bridge once they cross. Gangjin's gaze sharpens, saying it is because they Share an enemy. He explains that Wang Ho's wolf cavalry has grown to 15 riders and the gold mine is in his hands, making him the #1 enemy of the region. If they fight each other now, they only make him laugh, so uniting is their only way out. The words land next to an arrogant fool like Wang Ho. Cool and clever man like Gang Jin is clearly the better temporary ally. He tells him fine, he agrees. Then he holds up one finger, adding one condition. In the battle, Gang Jin's troops answer to him and his own answer to him. They coordinate, but neither orders the other's men into the meat grinder, and if they win, spoils are split evenly. Gang Jin agrees readily, calling it very fair. It is settled then, he tells him. They meet here tomorrow at sunrise to go greet the shorties. A deal, Gang Jin nods. Then turns and leaves with his centaur. He watches him go and heads back, already planning the battle against the Dwarf King in his head, a Tier 3 boss. Perfect. Honestly, this is the ultimate test for his chaotic crew. Dawn breaks the next day and he yawns his way over to the new water pit in the corner, where the Tier 2 water accumulation slime soaks in comfort, body rippling. He names it 3 waters on a whim, and 3 waters shakes itself and spits out a small water ball with a soft pop. He looks at it, then at the dozen smaller water droplet slimes beside it. Seeing its speed, he tells it will arrive long after the main force is done, so he orders 3 waters to take its children and set out now, heading east along the path they came back on, and they will catch up. 3 waters shakes and starts its long expedition with the little ones in a hopping, skipping line, with the painfully slow slime legion sent ahead. He turns to assemble the main force. Neither mine's defense can slack, so the original 16 Tier 1 cave dwellers stay to garrison them, well suited to the cave life. He orders everyone else to assemble. A massive, motley army gathers before the mansion. 25 Tier 1 cave dwellers, 3 Crimson Hell cavemen, 8 seasoned militia, 7 silent lizard men archers, and Snowsong at the very. He stands with 7 spirited wolves, his gaze sweeping over them to land on the 6 skeletons standing still in the corner. They have worked hard enough, he thinks, with a tired sigh. Between the crimson moon and the brutal clashes lately, half of his 12 fragile skeletons are gone. He decides to leave them home to guard the gate, promising he won't bring them out again unless absolutely necessary, and he sets the last 6 as the city defense reserve. Looking up at the butterfly sprite fluttering over his head, he tells it to just be an aerial mascot. With arrangements complete, he waves his army forward. The march east toward the small creek begins, and 30 minutes later they catch the slime legion still gamely hopping along the road. He can't help but crack a wry smile as he gathers them into the center of the formation and pushes on. They reach the agreed creek before Gangjin, so there's no rush. He lets the troops rest and drink to recover their stamina. Soon, a heavy drumming of hooves rolls out of the eastern woods, and Gangjin appears at the tree line with a massive army that even makes him look twice. 8 Tier 2 centaur spearmen lead them, imposing as ever. 6 longbow-bearing centaurs follow behind as ranged units, the system tagging them. Centaur archers Tier 2. On the flank stand 4 short squads working slings and eyeing his cave dwellers and slimes with curiosity. Halfling slingers Tier 1. Stranger still, 8-meter-long snow-white snakes flick their tongues near the halfling's feet. White scale snakes Tier 1. At the rear, a man in chain mail with a gleaming longsword and resolute face sits. A tall warhorse back, ramrod straight, gaze sharp, a true commander and hero. Unit Gangjin's force is complete in troop types, carrying a powerful hero besides. He counts 14 Tier 2 units on that side alone, outnumbering his own. Gangjin walks up and apologizes for keeping him waiting. He answers that he only just arrived. Pointing at his ranks and calling it quite the display, Gangjin gives a wry smile and says he had no choice with dwarves to fight, bringing out everything he had. His eyes sweep his allies' side, catching the 3 hell cavemen and the crowd of slimes. His expression shifts, claiming he is truly hiding his strength. After a round of polite praise, they drop the chatter. Gangjin suggests they go scout the situation first. The 2 armies marching together toward the gold mine, soldiers on both sides eyeing each other. Along the way, his slimes and cave dwellers draw more than a few looks from those centaurs. They halt the main force a few hundred meters from the mine, and Gangjin takes him forward with both heroes, his commander and Snowsong. The 4 of them creep close. Through a dense belt of trees, the view opens onto a vast valley. A sturdy fortress of massive stone and logs stands at its entrance, the open ground before it bristling with Sharpened stakes and barricades, a meticulously prepared defensive. Position on the walls, dwarves only about a meter and a third tall but solidly built and heavily bearded, patrol back and forth in thick leather. Armor with heavy battle axes, the system names them dwarf warriors, tier 2. Among them stand dwarves carrying strange tube-shaped metal weapons, and Ganjin lowers his voice to call them dwarf gunners. Their muskets are long-ranged and immensely powerful, a single shot easily able to take down a centaur. A tier 2 dwarf gunner, health 120, strength 23 with precise skills. They have armor-piercing rounds, masterworks of dwarven craftsmanship powered by explosive gunpowder. That gunpowder gives them the nerve to fight dragons, alongside 30 dwarf warriors guarding the wall. Plus 10 gunners, Ganjin warns. They are all tier 2, but that is not the worst of it. He points toward the watchtower, where a massive figure much larger than a normal dwarf sits. This giant rests on an ornate stone chair, leisurely sipping from a fancy wine goblet. A glittering jeweled crown rests on his head, and exquisite runic armor covers his entire body. A massive warhammer taller than the dwarf himself rests nearby. Then, the system screen flashes. It is the tier 3 Chieftain Ironbeard, level 10 with 275 health. He has 48 strength and heavy strike skills. This is the ruler of the gold mine. A hammer rumored to shatter mountains. A tier 3 boss, the summoner murmurs. Yes, Ganjin nods grimly. Ganjin explains he once sent his own hero to scout, only to get knocked clean through the air. One hammer swing almost killed him, and these smart dwarves cannot be lured out at all. Since baiting is useless, the summoner falls completely silent. This situation is getting incredibly tricky. They face a solid fortress, dangerous musket fire at range, and tough defenses. Not to mention heavy melee bruisers and a tier 3 boss. This is not a mine, but a fort. He tells Ganjin it is no wonder he offered a 50-50 split and full logistics support. This is a brutally tough nut to crack. Ganjin nods, saying that is why they must unite. Ganjin asks if the summoner has any bright ideas, but there is no immediate answer. Instead, he quietly studies the fort layout. There is only one main entrance. Sheer mountain cliffs guard the sides, completely ruling out any stealthy rear attacks. A frontal assault is the only path, which means marching straight into deadly fire. It would face 10 dwarf gunners. He glances back at his slow cave dwellers and slimes. These slow-moving targets would easily be wiped out before they even reach the gate. He warns Ganjin that charging in head-on is suicide. They must find another way. First, they have to silence those guns. Ganjin looks puzzled and asks how. His own centaur archers are outranged, and a ranged duel would be instant suicide. Just then, his eyes land on the little butterfly sprite hovering over his head. The creature is currently bored, chasing a wild butterfly. He smiles and says he has a plan. Ganjin follows his gaze to the tiny butterfly sprite drifting lazily in the air. The small creature, no longer than his forearm, softly flaps its wings and looks back. Ganjin cannot help frowning, asking him if this is some kind of joke. He wonders if they are really pinning their hopes on a creature that only flies. Its health is probably no higher than a wild rabbit's, making it completely useless. Sending it toward the fortress just turns it into easy target practice for the dwarves. But the summoner tells him not to underestimate her, beckoning the sprite closer. She drops down obediently onto his shoulder. Then he asks what dwarf muskets fear most. Ganjin thinks it over, guessing they fear close combat or maybe massive damage. But he shakes his head. Gunpowder weapons fear nothing in this world like moisture. Ganjin's eyes light up, then immediately dim because they cannot control the weather. Neither of their armies has a unit that can control the weather at all. He smiles and points to the sprite, saying that is exactly why they need her. He does not need her to fight, but to completely ruin the dwarven guns beforehand. With a grin, he turns and calls his special unit, Free Waters, over to them. Tier 2 water accumulation slime bounces forward obediently from behind the lines and rubs its jelly body against his trouser leg, so he tells it to spit out. Something slimy, the grosser the better. It shudders and with a soft pop it ejects a clump of translucent, foul-smelling mucus. He takes a lump of rotten clay from his storage space, mucky dug out of the swamp days ago, and kneads the two together into a sticky black ball the size of a fingernail. The mixture is so rank that Ganjin and his hero Nuseong both step back and open. Disgust, but he does not mind at all. The slime mucus seals out air. The rotten clay carries moisture, and together they will turn any gunpowder, or dry firewood for that matter, into useless wet sludge. He pinches the little black ball and holds it out to the butterfly sprite. It is Time, the mascot. Earned its keep, so he names it on the spot, calling it Little Gold, and asks whether it sees the crowned shorty at the highest point of the fortress. Little Gold nods its tiny head. He asks if it sees the cup beside him, and it nods. Again, he tells it to fly up there, and without a soul noticing, drop this thing into his cup, warning it not to get caught. A wicked smile spreads on his face. Little Gold takes the clay ball, larger than its own fist, cradles it in both small hands, and lifts off a little unsteadily before climbing in silence toward the dwarf fortress. Gangjin and Nuseong watch it go, completely dumbfounded, and Gangjin asks him if this can possibly work. He tells him they will know soon. Little Gold flies high, its silhouette under the glaring sun no bigger than a bird, and the dwarf soldiers on the wall never bothered to look up. It circles, finds a clean angle, and lets go. The black clay ball traces an almost invisible arc through the air and lands silently in the magnificent wine cup of the dwarf king Ironbeard. Mission done. Little Gold wheels and beats its wings hard, vanishing into the clouds. On the fortress, Ironbeard is idly surveying his domain. He lifts his cup, brings it to his lips out of habit, and takes a deep gulp. The next instant, he spits the whole mouthful out in a spray, mixed with a string of furious dwarf curses, and stares down at the murky, stinking liquid and the black sludge dissolving in it, his beard bristling with rage. He roars a demand to know which bastard did this, a bellow that shakes the whole valley, and lurches to his feet, his sharp gaze raking the surroundings for the culprit who dared to mock the great King Ironbeard. He finds nothing but a few birds, and at last he smashes the cup against the ground in a crisp shatter. Out in the woods, Gangjin and Nuseong stand with their mouths hanging open, unable to close them, and Gangjin asks whether it actually worked. He wears the smile of a plan come together and asks if they still think the little thing is useless. Gangjin shakes his head, and the look he turns on him has gone complicated, wondering how his brain is wired to keep producing tricks this strange and this effective. He says he understands now that the plan is to drop this poison onto the gunner's gunpowder tonight. He confirms it with a snap of his fingers, telling him that once their muskets are dead, the rest of the dwarves are just slow targets on legs. He praises the plan as brilliant and asks what to do now. He tells him to find a flat rock to sit on. They just have to wait for dark. The wait runs long, both armies resting in their own quarters, kept clearly apart. Night. Darkness finally falls, faint specks of torchlight blooming across the valley, lighting the dwarf fortress bright, the dwarves on the wall changing shifts and watching. Dark with care, he whispers to Little Gold on his shoulder that the operation begins. The cave dwellers have already shaped dozens of fist-size clay bombs. And Little Gold can carry only one at a time, yet it makes no complaint taking a bomb and lifting into the pitch-black sky, where the darkness is its best disguise. It glides above the fortress, well clear of the torchlight, looking down on the whole compound. The gunners do not keep their muskets on them at night, racking the weapons neatly by the wall, their powder bags hung on posts. Nearby, Little Gold finds its first target, dropping low like a ghost directly over a powder bag, and releases. The clay bomb falls free and bursts across rawhide bag, clay and mucus smearing over every inch of it, some of muck even seeping in through the opening. A dozing dwarf nearby twitches an ear as if he heard something, opens his eyes, sees nothing wrong, and goes back to sleep. With that, Little Gold turns straight back to him for the second bomb. Once, twice, three times, the tireless little fellow becomes the hardest working porter in the night, ferrying back and forth between forest and fortress like a machine running a precise program, delivering his custom-made wrecking charge onto every last gunner's powder bag. Gangjin and Nasum watch from the side, hardly daring to breathe. They are seeing with their own eyes how the weakest, most overlooked unit in the army can dismantle a proud fortress, and honestly, it is amazing to watch. Believe by the time Little Gold completes its 10th run and lands tired on his shoulder, the sky carries the first faint gray of dawn. He strokes its head, tells it well done, and digs a wild fruit out of storage left from an earlier hunt, and it hugs the fruit happily and starts to nibble. Then he stands and tells all units to prepare, his voice low but carrying across the whole team, and Gangjin gives the order at once. His centaurs assemble fast with low whinnies as morning mist seeps through the valley. He lays out the plan in a few sharp lines. His slimes and cave dwellers advance head-on to draw the fire. His centaur spearmen stand ready to charge from the flanks, and every Ranged unit, his lizard men and his centaur archers both, holds for his command to focus everything on the Dwarf King. Gangjin answers that he understands and he gives the order to charge. The army, barely able to contain itself, lets out an earth-shaking cry and pours toward the fortress. His bouncy slimes lead the way and form a moving blue wall of flesh, the alarm on. The wall shrieks instantly, the cry of enemy attack rising as the sleepy dwarves scramble to their posts. The gunners reach the wall first to snatch up their muskets and powder. They see the dense enemy tide surging up from the valley floor and wear cruel grins. One of them taunts long-legged monsters to come taste his might as he loads, raises, and aims at a slime in the front. Ranked, he pulls the trigger and wait for it, only a dry click, no roar. Fire, he freezes, checks the weapon, finds nothing wrong and tries again. Another click, only the dry sound of the mechanism misfiring. He shouts in confusion that something is wrong with his gun. Another gunner cries that his is dead too. Meanwhile, a third tears open his powder bag, grabbing a handful of wet black sludge, cursing that his gunpowder is soaked completely through. Up on the wall, the 10 gunners dissolve into pure chaos, their proud weapons turned overnight into 10 useless iron pokers. Talk about a complete disaster. Down in the valley, the Allied forces cross the open field and reach the foot of the fortress. On the wall, the dwarves fall into a complete panic. One bellows that his gunpowder has turned to mud, another spitting that the wet muck reeks of rotten swamp moss, while a third roars at the rest to forget the muskets, take up axes and chop these monsters to pieces. They throw down the useless weapons, grabbing the heavy battle axes at their waists, launching spare stones and short throwing axes straight down at the base of the wall. The heavy stones and axes smash into the slime horde, but they only sink in with dull thuds. The water droplet slimes dent deep from the impacts before wobbling right back into shape. These slimes really are the perfect meat shields, he thinks, nodding at his bouncing blue troops with great satisfaction. Gangjin. Both commanders shout the same order in the very same breath. Ranged units suppress the wall. His lizardmen archers and the centaur archers loose together, their arrows crisscrossing toward the high parapet, forcing several dwarves who poked their heads out to duck their thrown weapons back down. Now Nuseong levels his long sword and sends the centaur spearmen forward, their hooves spreading as they break into a charge, while his own side refuses to be outdone. He sends the cave dwellers in to smash the gate, and 3 Crimson Hell cavemen with over 20 regular cave dwellers behind them roar in their broken voices and surge at it, brandishing crude stone spears and stone axes, 2 completely different styles. Reach the same result. Gangjin's centaur spearmen move in perfect unison, under Nuseong's command, driving their long spears precisely into the gates hinges and seems to pry at the structure, while his cave dwellers simply hammer the wooden gate flat, blunt and brutal. The sturdy stone and timber gate groans under the assault until it cannot hold. With a heavy crash, a breach is forced open. Seeing the gate lost, the dwarves on the wall roar and pour down the side stairs to plug the gap. He has his 8 militia form a quick line and thrust their spears through the openings the cave dwellers have torn, and Gang Jin's halfling slingers find their range, whirling their slings to send fist-sized stones whistling into the heads of the charging dwarves and leaving them reeling. The battlefield drops at once into the most brutal close quarters fighting, the narrow fortress mouth packing both sides tight against each other. His cave dwellers hold the very front with fearless tenacity, while the better armed, stronger dwarves open up deep, bone-deep wounds on a cave dweller with every axe swing. He calls for Snowsong to lock the line with ice thorns, and she sweeps her staff, streaks of ice shooting into the densest knots of dwarves, frost crawling up their feet and stalling them just long enough for the spears around them to find their marks. Her 7 wolves and Gangjin's 8 slippery white-scale snakes slide in from the edges, biting at dwarf ankles and backs, sowing chaos wherever they go. For a moment the battle deadlocks, then a deafening roar rolls down from the highest watchtower. Ironbeard hurls his empty goblet aside and rises from his throne. He glares at the messy battlefield below, his beard trembling with rage. He bellows at his own troops to get out of his way, seizing the giant battle hammer beside him, before leaping and dropping his massive body straight off a watchtower over 10 meters high. He lands and the entire ground shakes, sending an invisible wave of energy blasting outward to knock back the nearest cave dwellers into a heap, sending them sprawling and rolling several times. Before they stop, his eyes flash crimson, his hammer glowing with earth-yellow light. As he sweeps it toward Gangjin's troops, Gangjin roars for them to scatter, but it is too late. The hammer whistles past, trailing a stream of massive damage numbers, and those few units disintegrate into white light before they can even scream. Gangjin's heart sinks. 2 regular cave dwellers gone instantly. Talk about an absolutely brutal wake-up call. Of this Tier 3 boss, Engin's face turns grim, his centaurs dodging fast. The one white scale snake is caught in the shockwave and wiped out instantly. They order all ranged units to focus their fire directly on the dwarf king, sending the heroes and Tier 2 troops to close in and lock him down. The dwarfs on the wall are no longer the main threat, the berserk Ironbeard in front of them is. Nusiang roars for glory, spurring his warhorse as it rears on its hind legs, pointing his longsword directly at Ironbeard to lead the first charge. His centaur spearmen fall in behind him, forming a sharp arrowhead aimed at the king's flank. Gangjin's 3 hell cavemen refuse to be left behind, their massive bodies surging with shocking power as they barrel in from another angle. Snow Xiang's staff lights up again, and she chants for several seconds longer, creating an ice spear far thicker than before that drives straight for the king's knee with bone-chilling cold. The spear cracks against his rune armor and shatters into crystals, leaving only a thin layer of frost on his leg. Low damage, but it's a clean slow, and Nusiang immediately seizes the opening, drawing a bright silver arc to cleave down at the giant wrist holding the hammer. Sparks fly from the impact as Ironbeard roars in pain, swinging his heavy hammer back at him, but the seasoned hero pulls his reins and leaps nimbly out of the way, the giant hammer crushing the earth where he just stood. On the other side, the 3 hell cavemen close in, fearlessly slamming their stone axes and spears at his back and legs. Suddenly, he spins his hammer in a devastating whirlwind that catches one caveman flat, flinging his massive body backward into a deep crater, taking half his health in one blow. Gangjin's lizardmen archers and the centaur archers rain arrows down on the king, but the shafts barely scratch his rune armor. Gangjin grumbles that this turtle shell is far too tough. A Tier 3 boss possesses not only explosive attacks but absurd defense. At this rate, he will easily grind their troops to death. Gangjin shouts for Nusiang to use armor break strike, and a sharp golden light flashes in the hero's eyes. His longsword becomes enveloped in a faint golden glow. He spurs his horse and charges forward like a loosed arrow, rider and mount fused into a golden streak, aimed straight for the opening on Ironbeard's chest, the brief gap exposed during his swing. The king senses the danger and desperately tries to bring his hammer back to block, but that split-second slow from Nusiang betrays him, and Nusiang's sword punches clean into the seam of his chest armor, making Ironbeard let out a furious battle roar. Still echoes. His eyes light up as he shouts for Snowsong to go unleash everything. She does not hesitate, raising her staff and burning through her mana. Ice thorn after ice thorn flies straight into the wound on his chest. She fires them like they are free. He roars at everyone to target the wound. He even snatches up a fallen dwarf battle axe and hurls it himself. The axe spins through the air, but his aim is terrible, hitting the shoulder. It bounces harmlessly. He clearly lacks brute strength. Better stick to strategy. Stick to strategy. Ironbeard is completely mad with pain. The yellow earth light on his hammer surges violently as he makes his announcement. He promises that everyone will die before raising his hammer to slam the ground. Run. His eyelids twitch as he screams that the ultimate skill is coming. Nusiang and the 2 surviving hell cavemen turn and flee without a second thought. The hammer lands. This time, it is no simple wave of energy. Sharp yellow earth spikes burst violently from the impact point, spreading everywhere. They spread fast. Nusiang, running right at the front, reacts the quickest. He yanks the reins, making his warhorse rear to halt its forward rush. The horse leaps sideways, a few spikes grazing its hooves and kicking up dust. The 2 hell cavemen are not so lucky, their clumsy bodies moving too slowly. Even in their desperate retreat, a massive spike drives right through one caveman's foot. It skewers all the way out his thigh, pinning him down as damage numbers pop. The Tier 2 elite's health bar instantly drains, turning him into white light. The other caveman is clipped, a gruesome bone-deep gash tearing open his calf. He roars in agony, his movement totally ruined. Meanwhile, 2 slower cave dwellers are skewered on the spot, and one unlucky militiaman is tripped flat. He is alive but useless. Meanwhile, Gangjin's squad fares no better. A centaur spearman and two halfling slingers are caught and skewered together. They are pinned like candied fruit, but wait till you see his slow slimes. Several water droplet slimes happen to be wriggling right over the blast zone. The sharp spikes erupt, piercing straight through their jelly bodies as they pass. They stab through like soft cotton, dealing absolutely no fatal damage at all. Their health drops just past half, but they keep hopping forward, totally unfazed. They actually resist piercing. Incredible.